moment of silence to honor the men who fought that day. Then Commissioner Winters will bless us, and then we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would, please stand. Amen. And
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice.
thank you, guys. Welcome, everybody. We'll go straight to our agenda. Mayor, we have a report from you. If you have anything you recognize. Thank you. So go into our budget amendments. We got the true-ups, what we call them the true-ups, the final budget amendments from Renee. You have that right here before you. I just asked her a few seconds ago. It includes all funds with the exception of schools and roads. Roads kind of did theirs a little preemptive this year. They got a new person over there that does it a little bit different. So I guess they're balanced. That's all that matters. So, Renee, I'll recognize you, and if there's anything that you want to point out, and then the question that I ask is, was there any accounts that went over that they spent more than they were appropriated?
You had two accounts that had more expenditures than I could cover with their budgets. One was the county clerk, and it was her health insurance that went over. And the other was veterans, and he had an employee quit right here at the last part. So his budget is small, and I didn't have enough in his budget to cover her payout.
All right, so the county clerk went over on her health insurance, which should be, I don't remember ever going over on that particular line too often because the number of employees times the yearly appropriations usually. Did she hire too many people?
I don't know if she hired some more that we just when we
How
did.
far over was she? How much money did you have to cover for her?
Let me find her budget.
A net of 11,000.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
11,489.
11,000.
Fourth sheet, if you're looking through them. Fourth
Yeah.
sheet.
That odds aren't as good as it used to be. So 11,000. That's more than one person budgeted for health insurance.
Well, health insurance was actually over 20,000, but it netted to be 11,000 that we were short. I don't know.
So we'll ask Lori, if you don't mind, if you'll send a email and just ask for a high level explanation of what happened. Then we'll take a look and see what her health insurance appropriation is here in a minute when we go through the 24-25 budget. So that's hers on health insurance, and you said veterans.
Veterans.
What happened there?
They had an employee who quit right here at the end of the, right here in the last week or so.
Well,
So
if they quit, then that should free up money.
You have to pay her out.
Oh, I
her
apologize.
days.
Oh, so they had accruals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you paid.
And their budget is very small, so his is really good at being right to the penny. So There was no
All
additional.
right, you can kind of understand that then. I mean, you can understand both of them to a certain degree, but that
The good-
explains why you want accruals. So if somebody exits out and they've got a full amount, it's almost what 30 days worth of pay, I think. Something
30
like that,
days is the maximum we'll
that
pay
you got to
out.
pay out.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's why the mayor's policy is when you exit, he waits until he pays out to hire somebody to replace.
Yes,
You have to, yeah.
But if you're doing it at the end of the year, you probably don't have that leeway to.
no.
And that line, it was just over $3,000, but that's the cause of it, right?
All right,
at
so
the end
those
of
are the
the
two
year.
accounts that went over. Everybody else, they stay within their appropriations.
Yes, and you did have an increase in your fund balance.
I saw that.
So
And we're going to, but so those are the two. All right.
those are the two.
Any questions on that? That fund balance increase, if you turn to page 2, $1,543,152, and that's after all the expenses. Am I right?
That's after your,
After all the expenses have been accounted for, the revenue, all the amendments, we end the year estimated at 1.5 million increase than what we projected.
yes,
So that will, Mayor, I'm assuming, which I hate to do, that that fund balance increase there is now is already in your proposal. So
It's really not, it will carry over to that, but,
Right.
it.
well, I'm
it
just saying, if
wasn't-
you didn't account for it, then we can add 1.5 to what you have right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
That's a little bit black and white, but, you know.
We just got 1.5 million. this month.
No.
Just kidding. All right. So everybody understand what happened here? Yeah. Cindy? All right. Any other on the other funds? Their fund balances? We'll quickly go
you
through.
have some that dip into
Did anybody decrease?
the library, the law library.
Law library.
Mm-hmm. Their revenues are,
I apologize. Once you get past page whatever, I can't see anything.
I'm
You-
sorry.
Yeah, where are we? Page-
I
I'm
can-
on.
We can make this packet bigger by cutting the sheets and making them larger. Except for Louis.
I noticed some of yours are hard to read. Louis, I
Mhm.
couldn't read a minute ago.
Once I get past the third or fourth page, I mean, it's almost blank
Yeah.
on mine. But that's the main thing with the true ups is who went over on their appropriations and what are the fund balances. So general fund was over or increased by 1.5. Library, but their whole budget's a whole whopping $12,000. I mean,
Yeah, and the library and the law library, it's their revenues. I'm not projecting them to come in as what we budgeted for them. Unless something happens here in the next few weeks and we get a big turn in, it's not coming in. The drug fund decreased.
but revenue for the law, theirs is a fixed amount that we agree to give them and match with the city.
The
So
expenses are fine. The expenses are not
Right,
the problem.
right.
The revenues are the problem. They're not coming in. Like the law library, it's library fees, and it's not coming in.
oh, it's not property tax part.
No,
So
they
the
don't have
part
that.
that we are obligated, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
It's the other projections that they had.
On the library, when they have several tax lines.
Yeah,
fee
yeah,
lines,
yeah.
and none of those came in like projected. So
wait.
the revenues were
Okay,
actually
now I'm
down.
confused again. Property taxes, let's just.
Property
concentrate.
taxes, did, but, trustee collections, 6,000 down, clerk and master, 200 down, interest and penalty, 700 down. So you see what I'm saying? All of those lines were a little bit under projected on the library part of the budget revenue.
What I hope we're not doing is that we're giving less than what the city's giving. Is that, are we supposed to be 50-50 on that?
Yeah, we're still giving what's in the budget.
Okay,
It's
that's-
just the revenues, which will only affect the fund balance. And they have a good fund balance now, so
Yeah,
it's not a bad
thank
thing.
God.
But their fund balance will be 18 less than projected.
Okay.
If you're talking about the other one being more than projected, here's an example of one that's less than projected.
All
So,
right.
you know.
Very good. All right, everybody understand on the fund balances? What else? Fire fund balance?
Fires decreased about $10,000.
Percentage-wise, that's still good.
Yeah, it's still good. Debt service is down, not
116,000.
116,000. But your other funds, you're like, let's see.
They're all
But
increased.
we, as we'll see if we chat to this afternoon, we'll see that we knew debt services was gonna eat some of the fund balance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean.
A
let's say
lot
that-
of those, just like library, a lot of those lines have small amounts that didn't come in as projected. So
Mhm.
then, at the end of the day, there's 100,000 less revenue going into debt service than we had originally budgeted. In a several $1 million budget, that's not real bad, but we
Percentage-wise,
like
we're
for it to
still
be the
good.
other way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even an accountant wouldn't care about that. But the 1.5 in the fund, general fund, overall.
That's a plus, yeah.
Is a
Mhm.
plus. So we maybe move some pennies around then.
The other biggie is
After-
ARP.
after
The investment income came in more than originally budgeted. That is taken, I've taken that into consideration in the new budget because I knew it was going to be more.
Yeah, I
So
saw your 400,000.
well, I'm talking about the current year.
Yeah.
But what she's doing here is adjusting that revenue because the original estimated revenue was a lot less than it was. In my proposal, it reflects that increase.
Right.
So here we're doing it on the books and saying, yeah, revenue's more than projected. So that's all interest. That's a big plus there for
Yeah.
the ARP.
But we didn't really have to have a fund balance for ARP, right? I mean,
No,
'cause
no,
we're
but
gonna
it's
spend
just
every-
that
we're gonna spend every penny.
you don't just, yeah.
And
Of the
then,
21, we are for sure, yeah.
And then opioid, that
Let me find-
Opioid's just a small thing. Let me find it right quick. If you go, are you looking at opioid?
I can't.
If you go down at the revenue, all equaled out, couple of the, well, that one equaled out. The only thing that changed was,
It
But-
increased, that yellow shouldn't be there. I didn't get it marked off.
should be blue.
Well, it shouldn't even be highlighted
What we
there.
were really doing there is, I think originally there's a trustees commission on there, is that right?
Yep.
And he's not supposed to charge a trustees commission on opioid fund. That's in their rules. And so that's pretty much getting that out of the picture.
and the last one, I think I looked at. It'd be landfill 116 over there
Mhm.
in Tri-State, but we don't really care. I mean, we care. That's
And
the
that
bottom.
one, the trustees commission was more than budgeted, but the revenue was way more than budgeted, so it's a net increase to the fund
on
balance.
landfill.
On landfill, yeah.
Yeah, very good. I think that's all the funds, right?
Mhm.
Overall, it's not a bad thing.
The drug.
The
funds
worst
we
one, in
worry
my
about,
opinion, one is fire, because I've already told you fire is going the wrong
151,
direction, and it
172,
actually came in
maybe.
less, but not big numbers at least.
All right. Let's get a motion and a second, and we'll go into discussion. We have a motion from Commissioner Alford, we have a second from Commissioner Winters, and then you're recognized. What's your question?
It was revenue that went down. Let me find it right quick.
You have anything?
It's sort of like the
Yeah, you have
the
anything on that?
library and the other one we were
If
talking
you have any
about.
questions, let me know.
The expenses were not up, but revenue was 10,000 down. Trustees collection 8,000, interest and penalty 10,000. You know, it's just the various lines there that came in a little bit less, all totaled up to 10,000.
I guess the question is revenue. Why aren't we getting this pretty much the same revenue? Are we losing taxes because of these, city going out and annexing these
No.
properties? Are we losing that fire tax?
Well, we are losing that fire tax for sure, but that's not here. Our property taxes is coming in roughly what's projected, right? There's no
Yeah,
change
that's
in
the
the
reason
property
it doesn't
tax.
show is because
It's those other lines.
kind of level.
Payment in lieu of taxes is down 1,000. Local utilities is down 300. It's just a lot of little things, just like the library situation. It's not property tax. But to your overall question, yeah, every time that happens, we do lose fire tax money. next year. If they do it today, we're talking about next year, but
Right. That's something I think we need to talk about sometime, not necessarily today, but I think we need to look into that situation.
Lori, if you would make a reminder that we'll do a study or analysis on what the impact is with all the annexation that's gone over the last, 3 years? At least the last 3 years since they started doing annexation, and kind of figure out what the impact is, Mr. Alford. We'll put a report together. It'll take some time to compile. You gotta go find the parcel, what the revenue it was bringing in, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we'll start working on it. Yeah, we'll have it ready by Christmas.
And think of it this way, play devil's advocate, okay, just so you understand both sides. There's a 20-acre tract of land that's outside the city, so we're getting fire tax on it. Now it's annexed, but it's developed, so it's bringing in more revenue both to them and us,
On the general
but
fund.
not to fire tax. So it's a negative to fire tax. I'm not saying it's a negative to Bradley County, but it is a negative to the fire fund. Yes. And so far, that's part of our problem because it's not growing like the rest of the county revenues are. It's pretty much staying flat. And that's why when I'm doing the expense side of it, I'm trying my best to keep the expenses flat to match it. We can't go do a lot of big things that we used to do. There's still everything in there it needs to be, but you know what I'm saying? We can't just jump up there because the revenues are not growing. But because of the increased values in everything, they're pretty much staying the same. We're losing, but they would have been higher. So when you talk about losing, yeah, if it's $10, but it would have been $12. So there's some of that.
And Commissioner Alford, just to add to on that, that goes back to the ratio study on those pilots a little bit. If we go back and we'll look, you'll see that that 30% discount affects them because they're the ones who receive that discount. It's not residentials who gets the discount; it's the commercial and industry. And to me, if they're already getting a pilot, which is a good deal, which we agree to, and then they on top of that they get the ratio study. That's a beautiful thing.
What you really need to do, Louis, long term on fire, is go back and get it same for everybody. Your intention was that, but that did not occur.
Well, we
done.
didn't consolidate the tax zones. We
Right.
consolidated the rate.
Now, the reason at the time was you had to send out millions of notices to do that. So they left it 2, and because of that, it's not. So I'm in used to be what called the fringe area. I'm not paying, in my opinion, as much as I should versus Terry K. Wood out at the county line. And you all intended to make it the same, but if you look at the tax thing in your budget, it's not the same. And see, when we lose revenue or lose the increase in revenue, we still got to provide the same service. You know what I'm saying? So we cannot match it with cuts in expenses. We can try our best not to grow the expenses, which is what I'm doing. But as the revenues stay level or even dwindle, the expenses are still there on that subject.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt.
Who's the motion and who is the second?
Commissioner Offer was the motion. Commissioner Winters was the second.
I didn't.
Then we went into discussion. You were the motion? I was motion. I'm sorry. Reverse that.
Okay.
Commissioner Winters wants to own this.
Okay. We'll make it that way.
I was moving my hand.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Slater, Commissioner Mason, Josh? Nothing. All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Renee. All right, that takes care of the true ups. The last budget. There are no more budget amendments throughout the rest of this budget year, right? I mean, after we voted those in, there can't be any more.
There will be an addition. Drug court came in today, and the state is giving her an increase for this fiscal year. We've not got the signed documents yet, but she has to put it in this budget, and she has to spend it. So we'll bring that to you.
Must be nice.
It
Mhm.
must be nice.
But it's state, and all we can do is add it to these end of the year amendments when we get it. We will have it before you vote on it the 17th. But now keep in mind, that's state money coming in, state money going out once we get the written confirmation of
All right,
all
so
that.
drug court, which is out of our control.
Yeah, and it's not costing us anything in our budget. It's just the paperwork that'll have to occur. Now, if
Yeah,
they'd have
she-
come in after the 17th, I don't know what we'd have done.
Yeah.
But it can happen now. It's just
Can we
not
send the
happen
state a
like
late fee? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't send it.
Yeah. That'd be funny if they paid it, wouldn't it? All right, going to our agenda, that takes care of that. We'll mark that out there. And we'll start on the mayor's budget proposal. And the first thing I want to bring to your attention, I thought we'd change one thing up this year a little bit. Hold on a second. Okay. Instead of going through every page, Lori put together a summary. I'm looking at this right here. Do you have this? All right. Because ultimately, the commissioner is responsible for adhering to the fund balance policy. So I'm just going to go through these, and if you have any questions, just holler. The general fund, 101. He's got total revenue 45,278,000, total expenses 48, fund balance is 12.9, reserve fund balance 1.8, unassigned fund balance 8.2. He's projecting at the end of the year. Remember we're talking about the 24-25 budget. The end of there, so June 30th, 2025. He's projecting his fund balance at 9.9, which is here's to the policy. Right, and as we just found out, they'll probably we can add to the revenue, another 1.5, that 45.2. Can we add 1.5 to that? In our minds.
The 9.9 you can. And that's why I was hesitating on you. Huh? Right now, I'm projecting 9.9, but the fund balance carried forward just got a little
Yeah,
bigger.
my bad. I was looking at column
So the
one.
9.9 plus that.
9.9.
And that's why I try to get the fund balance as high as possible, but usually, knock on wood, it comes in better than projected, so that gets us enough then to do the payrolls that we talk about for the first 6 months.
Right.
Actually, it's a little less than projected. One time it was used against me because they took the budget and looked at it and said he's projecting it going down. Well, I am, but in reality, more comes in than that. Does that make sense?
It
And
does.
so that's a good
Well,
example
kinda.
of what I'm talking about there. Some years has been a lot more than that, but it could be less than that. That's a scary thing. So can't get the projection too low, but I get as low as as high as I possibly can, hoping and knowing that there's going to be some amount added to it. Until we do these end of the year amendments, we don't know how much, and that will change a little bit too, because there's still some guesswork in the end of the year amendments. Even we have to guess that some things are going to be spent that may not be, but we can't zero them out yet because they could be, and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I think in your mind, you take that 9.9, add the 1.5 to it,
And that gives you 11.4.
and then do your percentage. And if you're running against me, that's the number you should be using. You see what I'm saying? It's hard to explain when somebody points it out the other way, but
You're
it
good.
happens every year.
I'm not
It's
going to
a
beat you
little
up
bit
on
of
it, but you like for us to keep a balanced budget, and that helps keep the balanced budget.
Now, there are arguments that it's not balanced. Expenses
I
are more than
know,
revenue.
I know.
But we have the fund balance to cover it, and when the actual fund balance ends up being there, then it's usually fairly close to balance anyway. But
Opioid total revenue, he's projecting 892,000. Expenses 616. Fund balance, beginning fund balance, so that's July 1, like we just said, 891 with a ending balance of fund. Again, I'm gonna put like June 30th, 2025 to keep my mind right, because we're a year out. 2025, right there for that column. And we don't have a policy on those
no,
because they don't have salaries in them really.
has some, but not much.
But oh, that's right. Drug drug officers or something?
Drug-
Anyway.
Yeah, drug fund and juvenile.
I thought we might have set a policy, but we're 1.6. So that lets us know, and I think I saw it in your budget proposal here in August or September. We'll do the grant processing piece of it.
Right.
And we'll
If-
know how
if-
much we can grant out this year.
If you'll notice, when you get to the budget, if you look on the page 84 in your budget, all of those programs that you all funded last year, I've plugged in an amount, a total amount, but I've left them all individually blank. That's for you to come back, have your hearings or however you do it and allot it out. Last year you gave out a 168,000. I've actually allotted 200,000. You don't have to spend 200,000, you can do 100,000, but that will be up to you all.
Yeah, and on that, we said that we would check and see how their programs did, if they had the impact that they said, and so, didn't we do that in August or September of last
Yeah,
year?
something like that.
After? All right. Very good. So that's that one. Follow up, there's not much to that, although I will tell you, I'm on that committee, not this year and next year, but eventually, it's funded through the courts. There's a dollar fee for every, I don't know the terminology, docket or whatever, that Gala collects. $1 goes to the law, because we're required by law to have the library. Years ago, they went to, LexisNexis instead of having physical books that they had to do inserts on. Their subscription, like everything else, has gone up. So they're kind of eating into their fund balance a little bit, but they've got 2 or 3 years worth of fund balance to eat into. But eventually, that dollar is going to have to go up to like $1.25, $1.50 to maintain that. That's for another commission. Public library, we just talked about 781,000 total revenue. Total expenses 707. Beginning fund balance 305 for a fund balance of 379,000. And this is the one we had to lower their policy one year, and then we brought it back up, so they're within policy.
It's the
All right.
one that we didn't have money to actually pay them on a regular basis because there wasn't much of a fund balance. Now that's built back up, so we usually start paying them from our budget, October, September,
Yeah.
something
Oh,
like
they
that
tell me, yeah.
now. But there for a while, we had to wait until January or sometime to pay
Yeah.
because there was no fund balance.
And just FYI, the city also pays into their budget as well, but that's on them. Solid waste, we just talked about 420,000 total revenue. Total expenses 378. Fund balance is 2 million, and the fund balance at the end of the budget year, June 30th, 2025, 2,044,000. There's no fund balance requirement, I don't believe, but we have to have a certain amount in there for the old, when it finally closes, if it ever closes, to maintain the closure piece of it. That's what I read, right? I think it's $1 million, something like that. But it's good to have that, because if there's ever a disaster, that's where the mayor goes and uses that money, basically, and then FEMA or TEMA, whoever, pays it back at some time. So,
Yeah,
It's
that
good to have
money's
that
come in
balance in
handy
there.
twice to take care of cleanup while we wait on
but it's
FEMA
good to have that 2 million in there, just in case we have to clean up after a disaster. Fire, 121, 127, that's what he was just referring to. That there's actually 2 different tax zones, 2 different rates. And I agree with Commissioner Alford, we'll deal with that probably, end of this year or spring of 25, and get the legal piece of it done. The notices have to be mailed out that people's zones are changing. That was the obstacle that we had last time. Okay. Anyway, so we'll consolidate the tax zones. Mayor, hopefully before we get to the 25-26 budget. All right, so 5,872,000 total revenue coming in, total expenses 5,800,000. So, like the mayor said, sometimes he gets accused of spending more, but he has a fund balance. Beginning fund balance is 527,000, and on June 30th, 2025, he projects that he's going to have 505. Their fund balance policy is 8%, so that's really close, like you said the other night.
Yeah, probably about
But you don't
2
have
more
to do
years we'll have
But
an
you're not
issue.
going to have to do a tax anticipation note.
No, we pay, I think it's correct to say we pay their salaries out of, general fund for the first few months, and then it pays us back. Is that
And-
right? Is that right, Renee?
Yeah, we pay the special funds out of general fund, and we write they pay the general fund back. We carry the fire for a couple months until taxes start coming in, and then,
So there is a tax anticipation note.
No, we're just paying from a different fund within, there's no borrowing.
That you used to borrow from debt services and then pay them.
That was,
Why change it to general fund?
well, we pay all the payrolls out of general fund, and
And then you make the funds pay the general fund
then we
back?
make the funds pay the general fund back.
that's why early
That's-
on, your reports aren't actual, you people that are looking at them real close, because they've not had salaries come out of them.
Yeah,
And then
that's-
it gets caught up at some point.
All right, that's
That one,
fine.
according to
Any
mine's
questions
at
on
8.5
that,
now, and our policy's 8.
Don't go to sleep.
So that's why we gotta watch it real closely for the next couple of years.
You're done. Drug fund, 122, 53,000 total revenue, and expenses of 77,000. So obviously they ate into their fund balance. Beginning balance 156, and fund balance at the end of June 30th, 2025, 132,000. So they're eating into their fund balance.
They can adjust theirs as needed, though, so that's not a problem. If you recall, we moved their salary people, their drug investigators, to opioid. I foresee opioid fund sort of taking the place of drug fund eventually, because drug fund's dwindling. You know, the confiscations, they don't stop the people on the interstate like they used to and do all those things.
Yeah, there's a law that came out that hurt
yeah.
them, didn't it? Yeah.
And that plus
Cards,
the fact that the crooks don't use cash anymore, they're smart and use credit cards or whatever, and so there's not near as much confiscation. So we've moved the salary people to opioid. We did that last year.
Yep.
And everything else in that fund, as less comes in, he can adjust what he does with it.
All right, Fund 124 Ag Center, those are our friends over at Tri-State, 381,000 revenue. This is basically, their revenue is the hotel motel tax.
Right.
Their portion of the total. Their expenses at 311, fund balance beginning at 312, and they're projected to end the budget with 381, and they're within policy.
Their
Art
fu-
money,
excuse me, their fund balance is increasing a little bit each year, and what I try to keep them doing is you can increase your budget as long as you don't increase it as much as revenue, so that it's staying flat or getting better each year, and they've been good at doing that.
I've heard
so.
they've had some big events there. I mean,
Well, that revenue goes to their other fund.
their other one, but I mean, but it goes to, when they had those events, it helps them and indirectly because of the hotel piece.
They can do a
That
lot of those
circles
other
back to them.
things instead of doing it in their budget,
All
right?
right. All right, next one is ARP, our federal funds. 400,000, and this is not deceiving, but you gotta take a lot of things into consideration. 5.9 million. Fund balance is being at 6.4, and if we spend everything that we appropriate, we're saying 869,000 is left come June 30th, 2025. That's the biggest if in the whole wide world right
That
now.
plus, I hope that revenue line, the investment line, will be more than that, because as we don't spend some things that are in the budget, such as broadband, or such as I will time the ambulance to be ordered where it won't be paid this year, those kinds of things, then that 400,000 will be more. But right now, it looks like it would be 400 coming from Mike Smith.
Ambulance?
Do what?
Good.
You know what I'm saying? If now we're to the point where we don't necessarily, we want to spend it, but if we don't spend it, the good thing is that line grows.
Right, so we were chatting the other day, which of these in the 24, 25 are like, that we're gonna approve with the resolution are gonna be like on July 1. There's gonna be a few of those that I
A
think.
few, but not many. Like the
I
ambulance
think
won't be, that's a biggie. The truck at
the-
the road department won't be.
But the nursing home one, I think they're gonna need that as soon as possible.
Yeah, there'll be a few.
So there'll be a few, but.
And the money's there. It's just that it does affect our interest.
Right. All right, so any questions so far? Yeah, please, Commissioner Rogers.
Mayor, I know that you said in previous meetings that you're going to be bringing us, the full
Mm-hmm.
commission, a listing of all the changes.
Right.
Will that be included on it, like estimated date of purchase for those items, so we could understand kind of where
Well,
the interest could grow to and like what's going to be taken out pretty
the
soon?
buckets, the new things in the bucket will reflect July 1st because they're budgeted. Uh, I can only speak of the ones that I have a little bit of control over, but the big ones will be delayed. I have no idea when the grant comes in, for example, on broadband. It could come in October, but I know it won't be July 1st, but you see what I'm saying? So there won't be a lot of that information. It's just that we won't be encouraging people to do things like the ambulance. Uh, Adam will be told you order it on this date and give me a delivery date, but I know it's going to be in 25. You see what I'm saying? I think that'll be the same case with the road department. Um,
It will.
Yeah.
I asked them the other day that dump truck
yeah.
that it'll be January, or February before
Yeah.
they take.
They'll all
ownership.
be, and the same thing, I'm trying to think of the bigger ones that's there, and they're all in this budget, by the way. It's just that the buckets reflect better. You can look at those buckets and tell anybody you want to all of the things we've done with it, because it's very simplified. Some of the things that we did the first year are not reflected in the budget because they've come off. You see
Good.
what I'm saying?
When you print that out, like throughout our budget, you've given us asterisks, multiple. It would be nice if possibly, like the ambulance and some of the other things.
In the buckets, it will
25
say,
asterisks.
it will say like EMS commander vehicle. In the budget, it's asterisk and says NARP. And then on this bucket sheet that you get, like you've got before, except it's added to now, it will say EMS commander vehicle. And things like that, they're gonna need that one as soon as possible, but if they order it in July, it's still probably gonna be January. So none of those big items are gonna happen real quick. He may find out that van ain't gonna be bought in July too. But I don't know about vans. I know ambulances and fire trucks don't come quick. Last time Troy ordered one for EMA, the commander vehicle took months to get here. It's not like going down here and buying it off the lot. The state contract or whatever took a long, long time. So I assume those will.
And sheriff has 100,000 in there.
And
he
even
may
his
take,
takes
he
a
may take
while.
all year to buy them.
He took almost a year the last
Yeah.
time. No, he didn't take it, but it took almost that time.
well,
Because they order them, they take months and months, and then they come in, they got to get all the stuff put on them. That's a few more months. So yeah,
So they
it's a lot of time.
potentially could spend the money July 1 in theory,
Right.
but the reality is they'll probably wait, and the more
Right.
they do, the better.
Most all those big ones will be
Right.
months down the road.
So that means that means like those that we appropriated that didn't use everything that we appropriated, like
I've corrected
that's
all
already,
of them
that's
that I
already
know.
built into your projection.
Yeah,
Then.
it is.
All right.
If I know, for example, if he had 100,000, he spent 98, then I've corrected it to be 98, and the 2 has gone somewhere else, gone back in
Yeah.
the bucket.
I would say
so
I
yeah.
think the one good thing, well, among others, is with this money. If it was like he said, we appropriated 100,000 because of the guesstimation, and it came in at 98,000. Unlike when we put money in their accounts, they go find a reason why they got to spend $2,000. Here, the 98,000 is all you pay because it's coming out
Right,
of
and
your.
it stays with us. You're right. It stays
All right.
with the fund.
Moving on to roads. And questions? Are you good? Sorry. Roads, 9,400,000 total revenue, and that obviously would include state money. Their expenses 10.6, fund balance beginning at 4.1, and they estimate that they're going to end the budget year at 2.9 within their 7%. And we, I should have mentioned this earlier, are within our maintenance of effort requirement. Very good. Next is schools. 106,000 revenue, 106,000 expenses. It's amazing how they can spend exactly what they think they're going to make. And then fund balance is going to be 14,342,000, and the fund balance ending. Amazing that they're going to have the same exact amount at the beginning of the year, and they're going to end it with the exact same amount.
Keep in mind, they do lots of big amendments throughout the year.
We know.
And so they're basically saying, based on this year, we're gonna bring in $10, we're gonna spend $10.
Right, and
In
obviously,
reality, they'll come back and amend it.
maintenance of effort is adhered to big time. We're really good on maintenance of effort. In fact, there's you guys saw the email. There's some kind of Zoom call with the state today on TISA. You guys, anyway, so they're in maintenance effort. 143 school cafeteria, 8.8 million, 8 million, same thing. They just go across the board. The Pie Center that's the new fund that they created, 242 for same all the way across. Debt services. We're going to chat about that a little bit more here in a sec. But according to this sheet, 9 million is the total revenue. Total expenses is 10. Fund balance is going to be at 15. And you have 9.2. So debt services has reserve fund balance and unassigned fund balance, Renee, and then for a total of 14.2. I don't remember debt services having two different fund balances.
Well, we just divided. Where are you seeing that? What page?
Just a second, let me find it.
Well, it's on the sheet that we have. It's not in your budget
I
proposal.
started to say, I don't know where you got that, but
Okay, so
I
at
know,
that
but
14.2 million is what we will end up come June 30th, in theory, a projection. You all right? Okay.
yeah, that 9.2, that's the required amount.
Yeah,
That's what they're saying. The 9's what's required. So we are more than required, sort of like if it's a 10% required, we got 15%.
Right.
So this one's not percentage, and it's more than is required. But what I was telling the other night that you need to be careful
Mayor,
on is
not
the
to
fund
interrupt,
balance.
we're going to
fund,
dive into debt services later
Right.
quite a bit. So if you want to.
because it is going down.
Yeah.
Just like fire.
All right, community services, community development, 172. And this is also funded by the hotel motel tax, our portion of the private act. 415,000 is total revenue. Total expenses is 467. Fund balance beginning is 233, and we're going to end at 182. There is no policy on that. The only thing also, we have an obligation to pay for the Spring Branch interfund loan, which hopefully we can eliminate.
And
So-
we are paying almost 200,000 additional. We're almost doubling the
Right.
principal payment
But
this year.
of the interfund loans, the ESG one I would take out first and then this one, because hotel motel is paying for this one.
Right.
Next one is 177, and they end the funding balance with $1.
That's schools.
Yeah, please, I'm sorry, Commissioner Offer. Projected.
Or anything. That's pretty accurate.
all I can tell you is this is what they turned in on their budget request. We don't do any of their finances, so I don't see the details.
Until the audit comes out, it comes from them. Does that
So,
make sense?
Can we assume that they've got 14 million sitting in their reserve?
Good. I can't.
I think that would be correct. What page is that on?
No comment.
What is that? Where's that show at? What page?
Just a second. Schools 141 is 116.
116 in the budget shows fund balance at the end of this year to be 10,281,000 in that fund.
I got a drink, thank you.
What they're saying is 10 million is ending this year. They're assuming next year's will be 14 million, June 30th of next year, right? But the amended budget for 23-24 is 10.2.
So that is, as of right now, they got 10.2, you're telling me, at the end of this budget year.
Yeah, and at the end of next year,
They're
they're amending.
projecting 14 by the end of next
Right. That's what they're saying on page 116.
year. Ma'am? Well, they asked for 7, that's all, that's their goal, they always
Yeah.
say
Fix
7.
that.
Actually, the state only requires you to have 3.
That should-
So we had let them have that several years ago, back when
Lord,
it's
Your
been
beginning column
probably
is not
10
right.
years
Yeah.
ago.
The ending is, but your
We-
beginning's.
We let them have
It's in
5,
there. We'll
although they
fix it
don't
For
require
the, when we
5.
do the finances
They
proposal,
want
we'll fix
7.
it.
What's
That,
right in
their own
here.
internal
No,
policy is
it's
7.
not.
They're above what we require.
It should have,
So if they always want to be
There.
2 points ahead of us, if
so the
we
10
went to
should have been-
7, they would go to 9.
So mine's wrong.
yours is wrong.
Okay.
It is.
That's the end
But
of
they,
next
I
year.
guarantee they will be spent.
If I can back up on schools, because we found something there too. My numbers are supposed to be exact like schools. And when I went through sporadically checking, they were. But on that one, they are projecting 10.2. If you look in their column, beginning fund balance for next year is 10.2. But for some reason, my column's got the 14. So that's gonna have to be changed to 10.2, because they are projecting 10.2 at the end of this year, but I don't show it that way on page 116. Mine is wrong, because mine's supposed to match theirs. I only know what they tell us on that. You see what I'm saying? And so mine, and then they're projecting, I guess that comes out to be the 14.3 for the end of next year. Is that correct? I didn't do the math on down through there, Renee, but
I didn't do that
Pers-
either, but that's what theirs is projecting, so ours should have carried over.
Yeah.
So we've got one of those things that you don't like to call as the formula problem.
anyway, I know page 116 has an error on my column.
All right,
For now,
for now. So you reserve the right to come back to this.
I'd reserve the right to
There we
come
go.
back.
Very good. Last page, Fund 189. Total revenue, 2.8 million. Total expenses, 4.3. Beginning fund balance is 7.2. Which I think that might be off as well. But the ending fund balance is 5.6. There is no fund balance requirement in 189. We can spend every penny without, no, but we're not.
189.
Yeah, I just, there, I think there's a little bit more in there, but it's, it is making interest kind of like, art money a lot more than I thought. But we
152.
get, there'll be adjustments on the revenue side, I guess, later. And then HCI, which is the sale of the Bradley Memorial Hospital. We did pay off one of the interfund loans, the workhouse, which that's why you see the 0 in there and in the budget proposal from the mayor. And we got a total revenue of 1.5. Wait. Yeah, total revenue 1.5. And then total expenses 442,000. And beginning balance on the fund balance, which their fund balance in theory should never ever go down because they have to always put 15% back.
You have to
The-
keep the principal.
So
And
they should never
15%.
ever have a fund balance from one year to the other that's less unless they get 0 interest on the principal.
Even
So-
then, it shouldn't go down. It should
It
always
should
be
have it,
growing.
so you'll never see the fund balance go down on that in theory. One note on there is that we did move the payment of the library, that we shifted it over to debt services when HCI was having, getting down to the 100,000 interest, because the interest rates 2 years ago were minimal, like under a point. Now that they're back up, HCI can go back to funding like the original intent of the library, that payment that we send over to the city. In theory, it wasn't really debt on our side, even though it was debt for the city. We were paying our portion to the city. I think the auditors picked up on that. So now we're back to, since they're healthier, the HCI making that annual payment to the city. And then in January, we'll have I think like 400,000 or something, but you never know. And the water program will start in January. Those are the fund balances. I thought we'd do it this year at a more summary level. Any questions on any of those fund balances? We're within policy on all of those. I don't think there's any need to changing the policy percentages. But I don't want to go past this too fast, but everybody good? Questions, concerns, cheap shots, anything? Let's take care of that. Yeah, please. We're getting ready to take a break now.
What is the anticipation with so many hotels coming into town? Are we anticipating some pretty good revenue?
We're showing
Very
pretty
fun.
decent growth there, but it's one of those that probably will be more than we're projecting.
Yeah.
A lot of them are just now coming online, the last 3. So next, we're it's reported 2 or 3 months behind, so it's hard to
Yeah.
know exactly, but we are projecting an increase, but it's
So
going to grow.
How many new hotels?
Well,
do we-
3 in the last month or
Yeah,
so.
the celebrations are big.
Well, the hotel we were at the other day, I asked them to split the 118 rooms.
3 nice ones recently. And so that will grow. But like I pointed out the other night, most of that's committed to other places, so it doesn't. But it
Gotcha.
will help
Good.
the industrial development, the tourism budget, and it will help Tri-State for sure.
Good. Thank you.
In our general fund. All right. Is it okay with you guys? We'll take a 10-minute break. And I got 9:52, whatever. We'll come back just a tad bit over 10 o'clock. We are in recess till then.
Make a note.
It was good. Oh yeah. Nowadays,
Adam. All right. So that was the change. We don't have to go through every single account like we have in the past, but if there are any changes that anyone on the finance committee wishes to make at the fund account line level, this is the chance to do it. So I have 3 that I'm gonna make a motion on. So I'm gonna hand the meeting over to the mayor, and then once we'll see what happens on that. Then he'll hand it back to me, and then we'll take up any of the changes, additions, or subtractions, or whatever you want to do within the budget. As the mayor said the other day, this is where finance makes a recommendation. I know he's going to say, don't spend any more money than he's already spent.
Please.
But in other words, if you got a motion for a couple 100,000, you're gonna have to explain it to do.
So you ready?
So anyway, yeah. So Mayor, if I can, I'll hand this meeting over to you. The ones that I'll start off with on page 10. This is our illustrious beer board. The chairwoman profusely apologizes that she didn't include this request, but I think it's reasonable. I'm going to ask that we give them a little bit of an increase. It's not 3%, but it's somewhat. This is our beer board. So General Fund 101, account 51220, line 191, instead of the 2,800, I make a motion that we make that 2,926.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? You made me chairman at the wrong time, but can I make a comment? My suggestion, I have no problem with what you're doing here, but my suggestion is come back in July with your resolution that increases their pay, and at that time amend it. And do the rest of what you're proposing. Were you going to propose to take it from somewhere or increase?
I think the amount is a couple
That's fine.
Couple, it's not going to hurt.
But you see what I'm saying? I think it would be better to match an amendment with a resolution. The law says you all, the commission, has to approve an increase in their pay. I have no problem with you increasing it, but wait and do that resolution and then amend it at the same time.
All right.
I think
then-
would be more appropriate, is all I'm saying.
That's fine. And then obviously, since their Social Security is so tight, you got to add.
Right.
You got to make that 223 instead of 214. It just to make sure. I mean, because
That's
got-
right.
yeah,
But you understand what I'm saying? I'm not
yeah,
against what
I
you're
didn't
doing.
know there was a law on that.
That's the one, that's the only board that gets paid, and the law says in order to change their pay, the county commission has to approve a resolution. So approve the resolution and then do an amendment to do these little things would be more appropriate, I believe.
All right, Lori, will you remind me to do that? Thank you.
And you can
all right.
already have the amendment ready at that time too, Lori, to change it.
Can we do that on June 28th, or do we have to wait till the budget's passed?
I guess you could do it on June 28th.
I mean, that's when we're doing all stuff. Okay.
The only thing is, I'm saying amend the new budget as opposed to changing it here. So you might as well wait till July. It's not going to affect their pay. It's just,
Yeah, they only meet once a month. And remember, the bid board are the ones who review the permits coming out of the court, county clerk's office. They keep us dot the i's and cross the t's to make sure we don't get in any trouble with respects to alcohol sales and all that. If there's, what's the other thing? The license. If you serve liquor, you have to have. They keep us out of trouble with the whole thing. So anyway, all right, that's that one. Then our account, we submitted a
No.
request
No.
for our administrative assistant, which is on page. I lost my page. Page 8. So Fund 101, account 51100, line 103. I make a motion that it's adjusted to 58,319. What that is the certification or that class, I forget what CCOTP, with that, whatever is included in that. I'll make a motion, already got my motion, 58,319.
And the benefits?
You don't need, there's enough in Social Security if you're worried about the
So
cascade.
the only amendment then would be to change the
Yeah.
salary line.
Which, we'll talk about that later, some of those are, but there's enough to cover in there already, the amount. And, after we get a motion in a second, I'll talk about the county commission's pay.
Okay, so the motion is to increase 103 and 51,100 to 58,319. Have a second? Cindy? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
So that, Mayor, on the county commissions, obviously, I asked, CTASC, what their thoughts were, not so much their thought, what they found to be true. And they said, yeah, you can't touch your salaries. But the idea is, what we were thinking is that, okay, kind of go ahead and make the increases. You can't put them in the line, but you kind of put them in a side bucket or whatever, so that when we are allowed to do it for the next commission, you'll have the increases already built in there. So in other words, if right now, Commissioner Cry, help me with this, because ours is line 191, and we're at 163, 640. So in theory, if we were to do 3% a year like everybody else, we can't every year, but because of the restriction. But if we did that amount, 3% amount, put it to the side here in the 24-25 budget, and then the 25-26 budget, whatever that year is that the new commission comes in, I guess September 1, 2026, that money would already be there. Does that make sense? You're kind of.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is increase that 163 by 3%, but don't increase the pay.
Right.
Just increase the line. What I'm afraid of, and I don't know what
Does that
Renee will
make
say,
sense?
what I'm afraid of is the auditors will look at the line and say, you can't do that. And what do you think, Renee? I don't know what they're gonna say.
All right, so
I'm not sure that they would, I mean.
that
they're-
means that you get the 3% that you would have gotten every year, instead of just 3% on the changing of the guard kind of thing.
Yeah, I understand, or at that time you could increase it 10%.
Yeah, but that looks bad.
But you're saying fund it as we go, and I don't have a problem with that. I don't know how do they check actual payroll or do they check budget?
They check our budget line against what the payroll, what the timesheets and stuff, what we're paying.
Right. All right, so
On that one, I'm just not sure what they would say. If they would say,
I don't know either.
can we inquire? I mean,
They know we
Chairman
not.
Cry, this is, remember we chatted about this? Is this a question for Mr. Reader or one of your auditors?
we can ask our auditor that's going to be auditing us. I mean, I
Okay.
can email them and ask them about this.
And our explanation is you've increased the commission's line, the salary line by 3%, but you're not asking for the increase at this time.
Okay.
That's right, right? I'm
Yeah.
asking.
Well,
That's
I mean,
what you're
the
really
same as
doing.
in other words, like next year, just for example, if it was 2%, it would be the same as in other words, what everybody else is getting. So we'll ask the auditors at the right time, maybe during the audit committee or something. I don't know, but that was the idea.
Do you want to go ahead and increase the line?
Since you can only basically, in theory, well, not theory, practicality, increase the county commissions every 4 years, because that's the term, but you would never keep up if you didn't do something like you said, or you could do a massive one on that 4th year.
Yeah.
But I like to do little increments.
You want to go ahead and vote to do that in the line, subject to getting a okay from the auditors? Do it that way?
Subject to if they approve it, then you can put that in there. But it's not money that you have to expend this year.
I
You're
understand.
kind of setting it in a little savings account.
It will appear that we are, and maybe they would go to the second step and find out that we're really not doing it, and it would be okay, but I just don't know how they would do it.
Yeah. Well, let's wait until we'll inquire and see if that's what we can do.
And amend it during the year.
Yeah.
And like I said last year, I always did what he's saying to do and actually increase the pay. until the state ruled that we could no longer do that.
Right. And
I always
Representative-
included you and all the other county employees. It's not me that stopped doing it.
I'm not blaming you.
I know, but I want them to make sure they know that, because they may not remember.
Yeah, Representative Howell asked the comptroller office, and he sent Lori and I an email explaining it to us, or the comptroller did. So.
Mhm.
All right, so that was that. The last one, it's not a line that I want to adjust. The HSA, when you are negotiating with the health insurance broker, I think right now what we're doing for those who take out the HSA, and I know not that many do, I think more should, that's neither here or there, is to increase that by $5
The amount we pay,
per, yeah.
where's that at?
No, it's a
It's
request.
just a
Well,
thing.
I thought this was a good time to ask you, because I'm sure right after now you start talking to the broker about the insurance policy that goes into effect January 1.
So that's one where you put so much in and we put so much in, and you're
Uh,
saying to increase our part.
Well, whatever, yeah, on the HSA, because it's been $25 for the last 3 years. I know legally you can do it, is if,
Well, I know that. I'm trying to figure in my mind where that would reflect. in.
anyway,
It's gonna reflect in all your.
I just want to get that in front of you now
Yeah.
so that you have that. I think that's the judge. The last thing, and I think I already have
Make a
the
note of
answer to
that.
this one, because Adam told me when we were in his EMS meeting yesterday, the opioid, we did set aside 75,000 for mental health, and you put in your proposal 25,000. I didn't know at the time when I was reviewing that the 50,000, the difference has been PO'd. So you didn't. In other
This
words,
year it's been
you did not,
PO'd.
you did not cut them. You just PO'd it and saved the money.
Yeah, two things there on that one. 20, I'll round everything, okay? Roughly 25 is what's been spent this first year. It was pull it out of the air last year. 25 is what's been spent. So I think 25 is a more logical number, but to be safe, we PO'd what wasn't spent. So we really have 75 again. Next year, if it ends up being 25 though, it didn't seem like we needed 75. We didn't need 75 this first year, but it will catch on and be needed more.
Mm-hmm.
So to cushion that 25, am I explaining that right, Adam? 25 plus the PO'd amount gives us this.
But looking at your proposal, not knowing
Right.
what happened, you would think that you cut it down to 25.
And that's based on actual expenditures before he
And
PO'd that.
I think we
The
should
25 that he put in his proposal is actually quite a bit more than we even spent
Yeah.
all of this year.
Yeah.
So we hope we never have to spend. I mean, in reality, we want the money there, but we hope we don't have to spend it, because obviously that's folks that are struggling, that are needing the help. But the number last year, like you said, we just weren't sure what
We just threw a number
75
out.
was just a shot in the dark.
It really seems like 25 is going to be enough for it. But again, we PO'd it so that we'd be sure we had enough
Okay,
for it, because
that's
we
all.
want that out there.
Again, when I wrote this down, I didn't know what he told me yesterday, so we're good. That's all I have. We'll chat about the pennies later on as far as the resolution.
So the only thing we ended up changing is the salary on 103, and
Right.
then we'll find out from the auditors about the other thing.
That's all I have.
Okay. All right,
Um,
go ahead then. It's back to you.
All right, thank you. So, Chairman Cry, please.
Just a follow-up comment on the commissioner's salaries. I'm all for putting it in a bucket. To me, it would be better to do it this way than to come for a 3, 5, 7, anywhere from 8 to 10% raise on the budget. It would be better to hold it like we're proposing here.
And we're going to find out if we're allowed to do that,
Yeah, if
because
we're
she has
allowed
to
to.
account for it.
I think it's not logical if the county employees get a raise. The county commission, being technically full-time employees, should get the same raise as long as it doesn't exceed the county raise. But that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, and I would rather it be done gradually than all at once too.
Yeah.
If they don't have, if they can understand that, but what we're saying, but.
I mean, this is the time on any fund, on any commissioner offers. Page 12, everybody. Got your mic on?
Sorry, now it's on. I was looking at vehicle insurance down here, then 718 vehicles. Don't you have 2 vehicles that come under your department?
My insurance, vehicle insurance.
It's $719, but I don't see any vehicles listed. How many or anything?
Well, the 719 is for the vehicles.
We have, we got 2, 1, or what?
Is that for 2 or 1? I don't remember.
That's for yours, but there's nothing in 718 because he's not purchasing a vehicle.
But that is for my insurance, yes.
For that 1 or 2 car,
The one car.
the 1 car. Does it show? I don't see a gas line on there either.
My gas is bought out of travel through the sheriff's department.
Okay, that answers that question. But you're only covering 1 vehicle with your insurance.
Right.
Is the other in another department?
I assume you're referring to Adams, and it's covered in Troy's EMA. It's technically part of, just like part of his pay comes from EMA. EMA provides the vehicle and gas, or vehicle and insurance.
Okay, you answered that question. Thank you. Got some more later, but we'll move on.
No,
Let
you,
somebody else.
oh, I'm sorry, Cindy, Commissioner Slater, recognize. Page 25.
True. They're a fee office that pays, we do their salaries, they reimburse us, so it's not budgeted. Only the benefits part is budgeted. That's why now she comes in there and amends into the budget. Is that the extra?
Yeah, these that are listed in this estimate, those are what she comes in September and amends out of her reserve lines. She's got 3 or 4 reserve lines, and they're specifically designated for certain things. And I think this is the ones for her archive, where they do the records keeping. So those don't show, but when she comes in and amends it, it'll show the expenditures at the end of the year.
Their salaries are much more than you're seeing there. That's just the amended part. There is additional SR. Well, let's go back to Steve's request, the sheriff's request. He asked for replacing 3 of the frozen positions in an SRO, which is 4. And in our discussions, I said, Steve,
Wait.
Didn't he also ask for a nurse?
do what?
Didn't he ask for a nurse? Or
That's in a
medical-
contract. That's not an employee.
My bad.
Then that's a whole nother discussion on the contract.
My bad.
But employee-wise, he asked for 4. I said, the discussion went something like, it looks like we could possibly do 2. What do you want? And he said SRO, additional. So to answer your question, it's an additional SRO, and it's adding 1 of the frozen positions back to the jail. So that's 2. The third one, you might call it as an additional employee, but that's in data where we're proposing to go from contract to employee. So that makes it technically an additional employee, but it's offset with the contract. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater, but the SRO should be paid with the SRO grant.
No, these are additional
He's got-
SROs. The SRO grant, when you amend that in July also, it will pay X
If I
number.
can't finish.
And he's already got 2 or 3 in his budget, and this is another one
I
in
guess
his
this is where
budget.
I disagree. He gets more per SRO, per school, to cover these additionals.
Yeah, it'll only fund X number of SROs, and
What-
we've got more
They
than
said
that.
75,000, they increased it, right? Just a tad. But he doesn't pay SRO 75,000 per SRO. So where's,
Salary and benefits possibly, but it's also for some other things. But the point is, they only fund X number, and we're more than that number.
but that X number times the amount should cover the additional SROs. Unless,
You can't do it that way. Yeah. And then when you look in his budget on page 40, he's still got a line for SRO officers. It was 206, and it's gone to the 250 because we're adding one. But that 250,000 is for SROs above and beyond the grant, the amount the state will pay for. If we only had the number they pay for, that line would go to zero. But we have more than that.
okay.
I'm just the messenger on that.
So
That's how it works.
The employee that we're quote unquote unfreezing, is that the right unfrozen? Where's my grammar? You're gonna obviously put the money in the budget now, even though they haven't hired anybody.
True. It's in there for a full year, even though
So if they
hopefully
don't hire anybody, then that'll be.
they will hire somebody, but they may not July 1st.
All right. So he asked for 5 total, right? Or 4 total.
He asked for 4, and his proposal gives him 2.
He gives 2, and one of them's an SRO. So that should, in theory, cover all the SROs.
What it was, the schools asked for another SRO somewhere. I don't remember
I
where.
think it's Coe Middle.
Coy Middle.
Middle.
They asked for one,
there'll
which
be 2 at
schools
Coe
don't have to
Middle.
pay for it. We do.
There's 2 at the
And
high
so-
schools. Is there 2 at Lake Forest?
Yeah.
Which they,
Anything else on there?
which they need.
I'm here for you. All right, Commissioner Winters.
Does the SRO work with Pi Center at the same time? No,
No,
Coy.
not anymore.
Used to.
They're
not
separate.
now.
Separate.
They originally, that was the plan, but they've said they need them
One there
just.
and 2 at Oak.
Wait. All right. Anything else?
I just have a question
Please.
at this point. The 3% across the board to all personnel, for those that have the sliding scale or each year, the county teachers got 2% plus the sliding scale, which would be equivalent to 3. Is that you're thinking in the 2% for teachers?
The 2%.
Salary increase.
Where are you talking about 2%?
I thought there's.
Oh, in schools?
Yeah.
Schools for certified employees is 2% raise plus step.
So the step is inclusive of the 3.
And with
is what
us,
you're
it's
counting.
3%, and in the sheriff's department, 3% plus step.
Yeah, so the,
I don't touch it. The step
Yeah.
comes in their request.
right.
And then the 3% gets added to that line with the step in there, right? Does that make sense? That answer your question?
Yeah, it's inclusive of, it's included, it's equivalent to 3%, what you say.
With the schools, yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't know what their step is. You're assuming. With the sheriff's department, a 3% raise equals 3.9,
Okay,
because I know what the step is.
right.
I don't know what it is at schools. I'm just telling you it's 2% plus the step.
Let me ask one other question, because I'm not pushing just for funds at this point. For juvenile detention center, that's page 47, looking at
What page?
40, it's page 47, yeah.
47,
Uh,
okay.
Building improvements, there's 0, 0, 0. Of course, I've spent a lot of years in that building, and I'm kind of surprised 0, 0, 0 for that building. I know there's some plans for the judge wanting some work in that particular area. That was not requested. Just kind of wondering if there is. I know a lot of upkeep's been done already that they do internally, and you've spent a lot of, helped a lot with that. So I'm not in any way pushing. I just don't know if there is still building improvement necessary at the juvenile center. That
Well,
would be in the
based on that,
future.
I guess you're referring to that committee meeting a month or two ago. Based on that meeting, there is.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't at that meeting,
However,
so I don't know.
this current year, we've funded what they asked for.
Yeah. But you think
And-
that's in the future, probably.
If it was me, it might not be, but
Yeah.
they didn't request any this year, and that may be partly because they're just finishing up that project. We still got a PO this week, I think, on part of that. So they're finishing that up, but they didn't request any for what was discussed in that meeting. So I don't know.
That's all. Sure.
So, Chairman Cry can probably speak to this a little bit more, but we have asked the school to go back and, consider, another point for everybody. 'Cause remember, the step is only for the teachers, and they also always have cafeteria workers and so forth that don't have a step. From my understanding, they're going to do that and send over the amendment, maybe July, or whatever. Even after, 10, 11 years, I didn't know this, but you probably guys know, the school pays monthly, right? We pay biweekly. So their first quote unquote check for the school system wouldn't be until September anyway. So there's time. But Chairman Cry chatted with Dr. Cash about this the other day. Chairman Cry, do you want to speak to this?
Thank you. They have not received all the numbers yet from the state on the funding. The last increment, there was an increase. Prior to that, there was a decrease. They are anticipating a increase in funding, and Dr. Cash assured me that if that occurs, the funding will be there for a 1% increase. She'll send an amendment over probably July the 15th, which will be in time for the salary September the 1st. So I unless there's a decrease in funding there, they're going to give a 1% increase, and they anticipate the increase. They are running a very tight ship over there on funding because of all the expenditures that's coming up, but they're going to do it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chairman Cry. And chat with them over the last week. They get updates from the state on their TISA. Like, apparently the state can't get it right the first time. Imagine that. So they send an adjustment to their adjustment to their adjustment. So they go into like July or August, and then finally Susan and those guys know what they have. The argument I've always made is the state says get your budget approved here in July 1, but we don't know all the total revenue yet. So all kinds of amendments throughout the year. But anyway, I just wanted to update you on that with respects to the initiative to do a minimum of 1 point. Maybe they can do more, but they will amend it instead of us changing the budget. They're going to amend it after we pass the budget. Maybe 3, yes, ma'am. All right, anything else in the general fund that you would like to change on any of the accounts, any of the lines? Commissioner Alford. How could I make that mistake?
He's got the right, same district.
I'm going to pay for that.
It's the same district.
Commissioner Alford, you are recognized for as much time as you require.
On page 15.
Page 15,
Elections.
15.
Thank you. I noticed the deputy line item increased 7% and the part-time increased 18%. Is there a reasoning for that, Mayor?
You're on page 15?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
The part-time, let's go to the deputy line first. How about 106?
Yes, sir.
106, without doing it on the calculator, it's salary plus 3% is 45. They might have asked for what you're talking about, but salary, that one person is proposed to get a 3%. That's half of your question, right?
I apologize. I'm sorry. Can you start over?
Do what?
Would you start over, he said. What he's doing over there.
Turn on his hearing aid. The question is pertaining to 106 in Election Commission, which is deputy. I took this year's amount and added 3% to it. I don't know about the figure you just used, but let's do it. If you could take a second, I'll do it. 45,831 minus 42,848 is that divided by 42,848 is, okay, I think what it is there, you're talking about 6. All right, you did an amendment a while ago. Somebody's questioning my percent. I didn't do any favors to this department, I promise you. If you're watching, I didn't. The salary in that budget line is wrong. We had to amend it. Look at your end of the year amendments. So that salary is not right in the budget. Am I right here, Renee? If you take the actual salary and add 3% to it, you should be closer. Either that or they have the wrong. Let's go. If you're going to take a second, let's go to it. In these end of the year amendments, I know you were fixing a salary for them. It says 42,848 in the budget, but the actual salary is 44,496. So you just approved amending it 1648. So let's take 44,496 times 3% plus 44,496, and you get what?
48.
That's what I've got in the proposal. So it's actual salary plus 3%. The budget this current year was wrong, and that's what you fixed in your end of year amendments. The other half of your question is part-time. I've got to think about that one for a minute. They were asking to go down because they were asking for an extra full-time, and I do not have the extra full-time in the proposal. 37.7 to 44.6. How did we get there? I don't recall that one offhand. Let me go to the budget request right quick. My intent was to increase part-time, but not increase an employee, a full-time. But you're making me explain the numbers, and I don't recall that one. 27.57. Well, that's, and you're going from 37 to 44, is that what you're saying? My intent was to give them more money for part-time, but that doesn't affect that's not a salary. It's, if you got 10,000 and you're spending 10,000 and I proposed 12,000, that means you can possibly work on more hours next year. That was my intent, but let me look at the numbers themselves. Because this is a double election year,
Understand.
and my intent was to increase the part-time line and amount, not based on a percentage per se. Looks like what?
Like they have one and you've put a second part-time.
Well, they already have two. I know that's what it says there, but give me just a minute on that one, or go on to another question while I look at it, whichever you want to do. I've slept since I did that one. Sorry. Where's that page that shows the actual end of everybody's budget? There's supposed to be actual salaries. Here we go. All right, if you look in their budget request, they asked for part-time people, 2 people, same 2 that's been there for a while. They asked for 44,460, which is what I have in the budget. I've given them what they asked for part-time, but did not give them what they asked for full-time. I guess that's the end of the story. Giving them another full-time means they're there 12 months out of the year and benefits.
Actually, we're paying the part-time more money than them having to have 2 people.
Or allowing them to work more hours, whichever they do it, yes.
Okay.
Which is more cost beneficial to Bradley County, in my opinion, because they're not necessarily needed 52 weeks out of the year. They're probably watching and don't agree with that, but that's the thinking, is not add the full-time employee, but give them their requested increase for the part-time.
I understand.
That don't reflect here because it says they're asking for 24,180, but in their budget request, page 57, it shows 44,460. That's where I got it.
Okay.
So I'm saying we give you what you asked for, or what you're showing. You know, the people, while I think of it, you need to understand this if you're going to the Red Book. You're supposed to show your salaries as they are today when you send in that request. half of the people this year didn't do it, juvenile bill being one of the main ones. They show what they want it to be. The instructions clearly say, do not include raises. Show what it is today. The county commission will address raises. So I've had to go back through and do a lot of, and I can't swear they're all right, but this is one where they show that, and I assume that's what they spent this year because that's what they were supposed to do, but I can't swear to it because not all of them did. I can only tell you that that's what they show they need, and I'm trying to give them what they need in part-time, but not the full-time. That was my intent.
Good?
I'm good with that.
All right. All
Uh,
right.
Before you go to another one, on that subject, you get the page. The important thing in this one, in my opinion, is election workers. You're going from 1 to 2. This year it was approximately 50 spent, and I've doubled it to 100. The last time there was a double election, it was only 81,000, but that's 2 years ago. So I've got 100 there now. We've got to have enough funded for election workers, or we'll be accused of not providing an election with integrity. So
That's
I
true.
think we've doubled what it was this year. That should take care of it.
And just add, this is presidential, and it's always the biggest one. And historically, it's the
Yeah.
one that
And-
they're going to require a little bit more than, and then knowing what we know about presidential election and all that. So it's the biggest one.
The other thing is their postal line that this year, we didn't give them what they asked, and we said we would track it. Looks like they've spent 12,000 roughly. They asked for 20, and I've posted 15. I don't know why it would be that much more than it was this year, because this year's was a huge increase. But again, that one's sort of a guess. But they do have an increase there, even more than they did this year. At the end of the day, it's 472 versus 413, so it's a $70,000 increase from the last 2 election cycle. So overall, it should work out. It may
Right.
not be in the exact right lines everywhere. They may have to move it around, but it should be okay. It's 70,000 more than the last 2 elections.
Right. You also had to increase the CPA because he's doing 2.
The what?
I don't know how they. Yeah, Joe Reed. I don't know where you.
Yeah, the accounting services.
Accounting
Yeah,
service, yeah.
it doubled. That
because
they
he-
requested it.
He
And
does
it's
it per
there.
election.
Yeah.
Very good. Anything else on elections, Mr. Hopper? You good? All right. And we're open floor on anything. We're not going to go through each page. We're going to, whatever one you want to go to next.
Data processing, page
Data-
26.
Page 26.
I know Cindy mentioned it earlier, and he went from a contract to a full-time employee. Is that what you did with that situation?
That's what I'm proposing. That's the way we used to be, and when he retired, we went with contract, and we've done that probably 10 years, I guess. Company sold a time or two, keeps increasing in cost. We feel like it's probably going to increase a lot this year when if we recontract with the new company. So I said, I think it's grown enough. We just need to go back to the employee.
Now, this full-time employee now is going to take over IT completely?
I know what you're getting at. Because Adam right now has salaries that come out of 3 places.
Right, that was my next question.
Yeah, I knew. The
What-
2,900 is still here. He will have to answer to somebody, so if I took the 29 out of here, I gotta move it to my budget. So the proposal keeps him being paid out of the 3 places that he's always been paid, that Lindsay was paid from. And it still leaves him being paid in those 3 places. And I will look at it. He's not, he will be the one that has to deal with that employee and that kind of thing. He's the one that's dealt with the contract people, the employees the contract provided us an employee 1 or 2 days a week. Now we'll have that employee all the time, so it'll be better service, I think, for the departments. But yeah, I have left that salary in 3 different places like always, because if I didn't, I'd have to increase it in mine, and I don't want to do that. So I'm leaving it like it is. It's a set salary that's divided 3 places, and it's always been that way. I mean,
Put it in yours.
does that sort of answer your question?
You had sort of
They
answered
answer
my
the question,
question.
just don't like it.
And, yeah, okay.
The 60,000 is there, and we moved 60,000 then out of the contract line. What it was going to be roughly has been moved out to take care of that salary. It's still a little bit of an increase because, you know, I did brag whenever I went to contract, saves taxpayers money. I like the contract. It keeps government from growing, but at some point, these companies, especially when they keep selling like that, the cost gets where it's not necessarily a savings anymore. And a lot of people would argue it's not as good service. I think it's worked well, but they're not available on a moment's notice, like some departments want.
I'll
It's
speak
just-
to that real quick because that's kind of the world I live in. The employee is coming from the company that we're discontinuing the contract with, so he's going to be familiar with our environment, which is a great thing. Knowledgeable from everything from break fix to things, changing passwords to some of the strategies that we have with security, our network security and stuff like that. So since the budget request or the expense side is not going up, it's, I think, a good thing. And then it's always when it's your employee, you can bring them into the office and have that talk. Whereas if they're contracted, you got to go through their management and fill out all kinds of nasty forms. So
There are
anyway,
pros and
we'll-
cons to it.
if it doesn't work
It-
out, we can go back to the contract. A lot
Yeah.
of companies go back and forth on this.
Yeah, and we may have to, I don't know. I wasn't really going to talk about the employee situation, but what's happened there when the sale, I hate that thing.
It's all right.
They let everyone go, and so there's some employees available, and this one in particular is he knows our system, has worked with us, and he's willing to come to work for us, so it'll be seamless as far as moving him right into that. So,
Very good. Anything on this side, Commissioner Mason? You really have to be quiet. Commissioner Winters.
The triple assignment for your assistant will stay. There'll still be three.
yeah, it's still like it's always
To be
been.
your assistant and do.
He
Yes,
does a
yes,
little bit out of IT because of those responsibilities, and he does some for EMA. So he and EMA's assistants are in what I call the OSHA budget. So that salary has always been in those three places.
So he will be still director of EMS.
Do what?
He will still be the director of EMS. Or
For the
EMA,
time being,
EMA.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not, the salary's not reflecting that. The salary's, it's mostly in my budget, it always has been. But it's also, ever since the contract, it's been in three places. Before this IT contract, it was in two places. Lindsay was paid out of two places. We went to contract. I'm not sure. Dan Howell was probably paid out of two places. Lindsay was paid out of three.
All right.
None of that's changed other than the percentage each year.
All right. Anything else on the general fund? And we'll switch over to debt services.
Back
If
on EMS again.
Oh, so somebody just went in your office.
Alright.
Please, Mayor, it's open floor.
if I was trying to wait till everybody was through, but I have one request that I would like for you to look at. If you look at trustees,
Oh,
and I missed a to what? What?
Commissioner Slater's excused.
Cut trustee salary? Yeah, I would do that.
What page?
He's probably watching. It has been proposed to cut the trustee's salary.
Denied.
Page 24. This was, in my opinion, an oversight on my part. Rather than doing what I should have done, I was attempting, I'm talking about the last line in his budget, I was attempting to limit, only fund part of what he was asking for. And what I should have done is taken the whole 5,700 and put it in ARP, because it is a capital.
Yes.
So what I'm asking you all to recommend, different from my proposal, is zero out the 3850,
Zero it out.
lower the total budget to 556, sorry, 556, And then I will put that full amount, 5,700, in the ARP fund, and that's account 58,835-790.
All right, do I have a motion to move the zero out, general fund 101, account 52400, line 709 to zero? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Do I have a motion to move 5,700 into the art? And Mayor, you have to tell us where you want to put it, but
It would be in the art fund, account number 58,835-790.
58,709 of 5,700. Do I have a motion to move that? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. There'll be a tiny little adjustment in your,
That'll help our general fund a little bit, and we've got it in ARP, so.
yeah. Anything else in the general fund? Commissioner Alford, please. Page 59.
In my proposal, and he can jump in if he wants to too. In my proposal, we're increasing the salary of the director a little bit once we have one to help in recruiting a director, a permanent director. And then once we have one, approximately January-ish, funding an assistant director like we used to have. So fast forward 12 months from now, hopefully we've got a really good permanent director there with this new salary proposal. And it's not giving anybody a raise today because nobody's there, but it is increasing that line to potentially give me a better salary. And then we would also, a year from now, have an assistant director like we always had until Mike got promoted and I didn't replace him.
Yeah, and I think Commissioner Alford last year, when the person that made the budget, that was the director, zeroed out that line item, and it wasn't a month into the new year, he was coming saying, I need an assistant director. And I said, you don't have any money for that? And he said, yes, I do. And I said, am I correct?
Yeah, he did.
He said, no, you zeroed that out. So that position has always been there until last year.
Yeah, and I'm just putting it back. I'm not saying we'll actually even fill it. We may get a director that doesn't want an assistant, but I'd love to have that option once again. And you could see it was over there before. But the main thing is increasing the salary possibility. Because, see, it's been a combination salary up until recently. Sean was paid out of fire and ambulance. So the salary was more like this 75, but now it's got to all be paid out of ambulance. So we're trying to have a salary there that we can attract a full-time director and also have the possibility of providing an assistant if he or she wants one. And that assistant is a $65,000 one, so.
So I presume you've got a job description for this assistant in our repertoire yet, or we won't make one until we hire one?
They should have access to one over there because we had one. I don't know how formal that was with Sean. We hadn't had one since Sean, see.
Yeah.
So since Sean left, we've saved the assistant salary. And we didn't spend all of the director's salary because 71 one year, and then last year it looks like we spent 63 on Mike roughly. And so we've saved some money with the vacancies, but ideally we need to be back to having those two positions.
But a job description, is that anywhere?
Of the assistant or the director?
Well, both probably eventually. We don't have to do it right now. You don't have to do it, but I just think we need to have it somewhere.
Well, we will have one on the assistant by January, if not before. He can't be hired till January. It's not funded till then. The director, I don't recall if I have one or not on him.
There was one when Danny was there, and I think there was one when Sean was there.
Okay.
I think
if we're going to hire an assistant, we need to have.
Well, we will have that. We've had one before, and so it probably already exists, but it wouldn't have been, I wouldn't have had
Probably
it.
needs to be updated too.
True, and if we don't have one, we'll have one by January.
Thank you.
assuming we even hire in January.
Knowledge transfer, that's.
Not by me. What has happened there throughout, and again, I mentioned a department a while ago that did it repeatedly. If you ask for, and you've already changed one of these, but if you ask for $1,000 increase and the 3% that I'm proposing is 2,000, then I took the 1,000 away and you got the 2,000. But if you're a department such as juvenile and others, that for whatever reason their salaries are increased more than 3%, I gave them what they requested, but the instructions in HR is you do not add 3% to them. So if those lines are increased a different amount than 3%, it's because more than, and you have to use an example of one, but more than likely that department head put it in their request. I carried the request over here, but I did not add 3% to it. So I'm not saying everybody's getting 3%. I'm saying everybody's getting at least 3%. There are people out there because of requests are getting more than that. And I'm trying to fund them. Right. That's why they're not supposed to change the salaries, but dadgummit, they did this year.
Well, unless you do some deep diving research, you don't know that because you've got this mindset going into budget requests. Maybe next year when we do budget requests, we specifically say that so that we know the numbers we're looking at are what you're talking about. Because when I'm looking at budget requests on the personnel pages where you have the employee name, their hire date, and all that stuff, I'm going by that number.
Yep. And that number isn't what we always wanted this year, I promise you. Now, I can use an example of one because he's my department, Rich Kinlan. Rich Kinlan adjusted salaries this year, this current year, because he had money to do it with my approval. He adjusted those salaries, and he's not getting any increases in the new budget. You follow me? They're not getting another 3%. They got them probably in May or June. And that's okay as long as I know it, but some of them did it in here by changing that, what's supposed to be existing salary, and they're not. They're, anyway.
So Lori, I know we're a year out, but next year we'll put something in there that says how we want those numbers. It's the personnel page in the budget request.
We're going to have to point it out. It's already there. The instruction sheet clearly says do not increase salaries.
We can have two columns: what we want and then what they're wanting. I mean, I know that's more data, but when when we're looking at the budget request, I know for me, we're going through tons of this stuff, and obviously the other thing is cut out all the non-necessary documentation that makes that book.
Yeah, tell Cassandra not to send all that stuff next year.
Cassandra,
if you're watching,
don't send all that stuff next year. Oh, I'm going to get a text here in a minute, I'm sure. But we'll look at that. Just remind me, Lori, we'll redo the budget request requirements and try to make it what we need to make the decisions, because it is somewhat confusing when you look at it at a high level. You got to get in there and dig and research.
It makes it take me a lot more time, and I've caught all of them I can. I gave them a list a mile long. HR, these people do not get the 3% raise because they already have more than that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And again, if it was proposed that they got one, but it was, say, $1,000 and it ended up being less than 3%, then I took away the 1,000 and added the 3%. So I tried to get it right, but I can't swear they all are. But it did get very, very complicated, I assure you. I probably spent more time on that subject than anything.
And Mylan, on the instruction sheets when we hand these out, we have a line there that says, and when I talk to them, I say, don't add any increase. Put your year-to-date salaries on the personnel sheet.
Then we can fill it out for them because we should know that number then. And say, this is, I mean... But these are elected officials and department heads.
When he goes to do the percentage increase, HR pulls what the salary is at the end of March,
Right.
because we're going from there. So some of these, like say the election one that we fixed in the system, her salary is more than what was in the budget.
She's getting a 3% raise. If she's watching, she's getting a 3%. On paper, it's more like whatever Louis said earlier, because on paper, it didn't show as much as it actually was.
Really and truly, the base wage, as you well know, is what really determines that. So, anyway, good, Commissioner Alford? Thank you. Touchdown. All right, anything else on general fund? Commissioner Mason, Commissioner Slater, Josh? Nothing? All right, so let's go to debt services, page 102. I'm sorry, American Rescue Plan, 128.
Marlon,
page
can I say
102.
one more thing, even though you haven't asked me? I'm gonna bring it up. My accounting budget is very confusing because we've had a trainee part of the year.
Well,
I
you
hired
explained
him
that the
later
other
than
day.
I budgeted, so we didn't spend it all, but we're paying again more next year than we would have. So that line's very confusing, but I can assure you, every single person in that department is getting 3%, not more. He's
And you're
full-time now, so he'll get a 3%, she gets 3%, but the time of leaving and the taking place of stuff has changed, so it's a little bit of an increase, but they are not getting, don't do a percentage on the line and thinking they're getting that percentage increase in pay, they're not. It's unused money being moved forward is what I'm doing.
We looked at that. And,
I'm sure you
direct your
did, and
samples.
so
If I may
that's
ask,
exactly what happened there.
have
That
you
one's confusing.
formally notified, when is your last day? If we may be.
We don't have an exact one yet, but it's roughly December something.
It'll be the week of Christmas.
But there again, I got a
So-
payout a lot later than
Well, in
that.
other words, I was getting
So-
ready to say, don't do what veterans did. Well, it wasn't veterans' fault.
But I think
No.
I've got that one fairly close to being accurate, but I
That's
knew
our
that you
Christmas
guys would be doing a percentage on
And-
those lines, and that's not the way you can do those, I promise you.
When I did my budget request, I calculated what my salary would be and then what my payout would be. So it's in there.
What if you take a major vacation between now and then?
I don't have time to take a major vacation.
What if a mandatory
Merry
vacation?
Christmas.
Anyway, I wanted to be proactive and mention that, because I knew some of you'd be looking at it,
Uh,
but they're not. None of my people are getting more than
okay,
3%, I can
Get
assure
ready,
you.
Bubba. All right, anything else? All right, let's move over to rescue on page 102. The mayor went over this in his proposal on Monday night a little bit, but I would like to ask the finance committee what their pleasure is on. You see, we'll go through this real quick. On page 103, well, page 102 is the summary page. It kind of tells you the summary of revenue, expenses, and gives you your fund balance. That's the summary that we already went over. 103, he's saying 370,000 to Tennessee, Southeast Tennessee Development District for, they've handled since day one all of the reporting to kind of eliminate all that stuff.
They assist with the report.
So you don't think they should get 370?
No, I think they should get it, but
No,
Just kidding. Page 104. Obviously,
wait, that's
like
wrong.
I asked him the question, the mayor, those who had money that we appropriated and they didn't use it all, he's already
right.
accounted for
that's what
that in his column.
Marlon,
Bradley
that-
County, one second,
Let-
Bradley Cleveland Community Service, that's the one that we increased by 150 pending the city's approval on their side. And you said the other day, it's work in progress is the only thing.
let me throw something in here, Marlon, because this 370, when you said that, I'm thinking, what? That's a mistake. From round 15 to round 16, something got changed there.
That's what I
We're
said.
showing 30,000 each year. The 370 should be back. That's not right. So we will have a change on that and the total fund balance page for
So
you for Monday.
is it more or less?
Well, 30,000 a year is what we're projecting to spend with the development district. But see, under my proposal, it shows 370, and that's not right.
So what will it be?
It should be 30,000 this year, 30,000 next year. And in my buckets, it'll show 30,000 then for the following
Okay,
year,
so
too.
my thinking, why it didn't raise a flag was that they've been accruing their expenses all along, and then this was the final, because we're coming
No.
to the end of the program.
No, that's just wrong.
So
Originally,
So
we
we've
were,
been paying them all along. I mean,
no, we've only paid them once, but we have a second one due. Originally, we put 400,000 there, and we've only paid once, so that's why it's 370. That was just a number out of the air back 2 years ago. Now, it's changed and we're more accurate, and that should be 30,000. The bottom line for this current year, it should be 30,000 in the new budget, which will change 2 or 3 of their pages. The last time I looked at this page, that's how it was. That's somewhere it got changed.
so
So
scratch out 37,035 and put 30,
Right.
000. Well, that'll help your fund balance,
yeah,
or the amount that we can grant out or use, right? This one right
true.
here on page 103.
Just make a note that that page will get changed, which will change others. Because when you present your proposal Monday, it will include your changes plus any corrections we found, and that's a correction that'll
That's
be
a
coming.
correction. Very good. So that correction will cascade all the way through to the fund balance.
The total page will change also, yes.
Commissioner Slater, Commissioner May, you see what we did here? You got a budget over there, right? All right, that's good news. That's on the plus side.
Now, I interrupted you on ARP. You go ahead where you were at.
Yeah, you did.
I just wanted to get that page before I forgot it. Sorry.
Just kidding. All right, so that's Southeast Tennessee, and they were doing that. The next page is emergency shelter. Like I just said, we upped it to 150 pending the city's matching. I'll just say this, Mayor, you're on that committee, I believe Commissioner Thompson is, and I hope they get that done.
Mhm.
And I think they know that this commission supports that.
You know, you
So
guys,
anything we can do to help them,
you approved adding that 150. They've only
I mean,
spent 4 or 5,000.
is
And you
Commissioner
approved
Slater's
adding the
district.
150. What we're waiting on now, I've told you this before, but we're still waiting on it, is the city is working with them to come back with a rebid that will not need that 150. If it works out, that's good news. But I had to go ahead and budget as if, because you had approved spending it. So
Well, that was the new number was given to us. All right, so
based on the bids, that's what was needed, but the city's working with them to fix that, and if they are able to do that, then that number won't be needed.
all right, then next one, city feels 25,000. I think that's worthwhile. They've improved it. Just the FYI on that, I'd have chatted with Stanley Thompson. Those houses that they have refurbished, I'm not using the correct terminology. They were at appraisal. You wouldn't believe these appraisals that they used to be in. I mean, like $60,000 or $70,000 was the appraisal of these houses. They've increased them, sold them. They have owners in them. Now the new appraisal is in the 200s, whatever. Still, relative to, I guess, the average appraisal is still not, but it's more than that 70,000, which means obviously the property tax is based off of that. So it's a great thing that's being done over there. So I'm glad we can help them out on that. Next one is EMS windows, 10,000.
And
Cannery.
wait right there. I got to interrupt you, Mine. Sorry. That's where you just approved that amendment to put the trustees' money. So
Oh, so all right. So that 5,000
under your proposal, it'll have 5,700 that wasn't in my proposal.
All right, so that'll be in.
So that makes that 10,000 be
All
15,700.
right, so yeah, so there'll be a new page on Monday for that. Okay.
Yep.
All right, 10,000 for EMS windows. I think is that Dooley Street.
Yes.
All right. So the next one is Cannery. I believe they're overhauling some of the equipment over there at Peerless Road. which I think
The
is a good thing.
boiler and everything, they told us last year need to be replaced within the next year or two.
A great use of art money right there.
Right. They think they can get through this year, and then when it's shut down in the fall, we'll get it replaced.
Next one is the EMS command vehicle. We chatted about that yesterday, but 50,000, and you explained what the old vehicle is going to do with the new one. And I got. Do you have that on order? You're waiting to approval of the budget, order it.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
technically can't
All
order
right,
it till
so
you approve.
that's that one. Next page. Please, I'm sorry. That's the cannery, right?
That's the cannery. Last year, that was those other things, but now you're down to the third part in that parenthesis, which is the cannery, the 30,000. They really don't think it'll be all of that, but they're guessing 25 to 30. So there's an amount there to cover whatever it is at the cannery.
The annex roof is already,
That was in.
That's already been done. That's in
Yeah.
previous years, yeah.
in other words, you,
No, we didn't have a flood. When there's a blowing storm,
oh, here we go.
when there's a blowing storm,
Got 'em
there
low.
is water getting into the first floor. Didn't come to me and I'm on top. But it's blowing into the the big vents or something. They've not totally figured it out. And it's getting down to the first floor. I mean, there is a water issue there. It's not a flood, but there's a water issue, and it doesn't happen every time it rains. It's happened 2 or 3 times. So finding the root cause of that has been a challenge. You'll get to it in a minute. We are funding to fix the things, the damage it caused, with the understanding that they wait until we have a better understanding of what's causing it. It's not a roof leak. We know that, because if it was a roof leak, it'd be coming in on me. But anyway.
All right. That takes us to, sorry, page 10, well, you can't see because the typing's in the way, but 105. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, 105. 7,000 contract with other public agencies. That's kind of vague, but, oh, this is part of the, septic program.
That's for the one that we did
TRC, whatever they
in-house.
are.
We set aside 10,000 for admin on the one we did in-house. She has received a $3,000 supplement for the year's work. Probably will be all, because it should be done here in a couple months, but still shows the 7,000 balance of what
Yeah,
you all
and the
approved.
54,000 is in, yeah.
The 54,000 is left in repairs, and that's mostly, well, there's 2 or 3 left in the one we did in-house, your addition, and then there's some left of the other ones. So that's money that's not been spent for those septics. And the reason being, we gave them too much time. We gave them till December of 24, and it should have been December of 23. But anyway, in a few months, those should be finished out. That's what's left of what you all approved.
Okay. Commissioner Gilbert, welcome. I would think that would be information you always are, asking about. So we're almost done with the septic plant. What, 3 projects left? Did you say?
I think ours has 3, and I think they have. Do you remember? We haven't got a report lately because there's been no change on it. But they have a few. We'll say 5. That's not right. But they have 5. We have 3, roughly.
We're almost done.
And it's just simply because they are not doing them. They're in no hurry. They know they've got till December. So,
Do we have a contract with them that says that date?
well, it's not their fault. It's the people have until December to get them done. That was our rule that we
Well-
put in, and we were just too easy on them.
Well, the money's sitting there, it's drawing interest. How's that? All right.
That's true. That's the good side of it.
So next one is broadband. I think we all know that. The IT committee asked you guys to work with Cleveland Utilities on that. Is there any update on that?
No, we're waiting on from them, Adam.
You have a meeting with them next Monday. Thank you. Next is water. That program's coming to an end, right? The Hiwassee Utilities is our portion of that. Next one is JCCH juvenile phones. I think that's phones for all those different buildings. There's the 100,000. That's normally in 189, but we're putting this into art money, so he'll purchase. Usually, it's about 4 vehicles we get for about 100,000 at 25
I don't
plus
know.
fees, maybe 3. Anyway, so 100,000 there. 40,000 for the fence. I thought the fence was already somewhere else.
All right, that's another one of those. The earlier budgets was fence. This 40 is for vests and computers.
Okay.
When you look at the sheriff's budget, and it's not asterisk, so you ought to make a note. In the sheriff's budget, I took 20 out of a line that was computers and put it here. I took 20 out of a line that was vests. I wanted to take the whole line out, but in talking to Cassandra, It's gotta be for one-time capital, and those other lines had software and things like that mixed in them. So all I was able to pull out and move over to here was 20 for computers and 20 for vests.
All right. Next is Bradley County Fire turnout gear. I remember the very first finance back in 2014 was the big thing that year.
They were
turnout gear
outdated
that
back
we did
then.
along- So,
We got them updated, but now they're in need of some more, and so,
but it was a lot more than 20,000.
oh yeah, this is just some additional ones they need. I think, gosh, you try my memory on these things, but I think we did a so many year
That's fine.
thing
Mhm.
with it.
50,321. That's a pretty accurate number. That must, for Commander's Vehicle 4. And Chief Stewart told us that in our budget hearing. So it's good that we have ARP money's been what's allowed us to save money in 189. Next page, 106. In-home vehicle, 55,000. That is
In-home.
the nursing home, and I'm working with them. Got Oliver on that, and that will speak. Well, not everybody was in EMS yesterday, but the policy change, you guys, that will address it, and then the others will have to do whatever. But we're working on that piece. That's the stretcher thing. Next one is building improvements, health department matching grant. We've talked about that one for years because that's all the way back in the 23-24 budget. And then what's new is planning. I get Mr. Director Wilson, $12,050 for office.
They had some, you'd have to look at their request, but there was some office improvements and some
Oh, that's right. He said he
furniture.
needed a big printer because he was tired of using Wayne's.
Anyway, whatever it was, I took out of their budget request and put it here.
Yeah, he was tired of using Wayne's.
I don't know if that's what it was for, but
Yeah,
whatever it was
that's
for.
probably what it was. All right, so next one, highway equipment. This is the dump truck for Tom Collins, which I think they said it would be January before they took it or received it. But he also asked for, and I had never heard this term, a mini excavator. So maybe later in the next budget we can do that. We'll see. Next one is flooring for elections. You guys just talked about that.
That was in the budget request and I took it out, so that's what that's for.
Next
Once we
one-
find out what caused it.
Next one is on page 107, BMX pickleball, 49,265. I thought we have done all the pickleball we can pickle.
You had approved, last year you approved 65.7, but he's only spent 16.4 of it, so that's the amount left. I don't know that it's pickleball, it may be the BMX. I think he's done the pickleball part and this is the BMX, but I could be wrong.
So okay. So, all right. So, all that, and I think, Mayor, I'm pretty sure you did what was asked is as much as possible on capital projects, take it out. Normally it would be in 189 or in their line and put it in art, whereas applicable, because we can't pay debt off with art money and we can't use recurring, which would be salaries. So for the most part, we've shifted, the mayor's proposal is shifting capital projects over to Fund 128. But like we talked about on Monday night, is there's still some decision making because there's still some interest money left over. I propose that we don't even really get into that part until the end of this year.
Now, I would hope you let it sit there and draw interest. Now, and these buckets will show, a lot of this is on interest. This bucket will show the new bucket of what's coming out of the interest bucket. But again, you say, well, I've got X dollars left, let's go spend it. Let it draw some interest so that this time next year we'll still have some ARP
Yeah.
money to spend.
And for sure, broadband's going to take for a while. We know.
True,
I
yeah.
mean, but
Unless
we'll
you
see
amend
what
it
the-
all out.
We'll
But
see what the proposal from Cleveland Utility is. But that was just my suggestion on that piece of it.
see, you don't see here that a lot of it's really the interest.
But we
You
get
see
we
the
get
revenue going in, but the buckets make it clear because I've got it divided showing the 21 million, and then I've got a bucket showing interest. And a lot of these expenses are technically coming out of the interest, but it's still leaving a lot of money there. And plus, a lot of it's not gonna get spent, and so you're still gonna draw interest for another year, and this time next year, we'll still have an ARP budget, is the ideal answer. And it doesn't matter about the deadline you start thinking about, Mylan, because it's interest money, which is totally ours.
Right, we're good.
We're good with
We're,
all
I
their
mean,
deadlines.
the U.S. Treasury can't come ask for any money.
In my opinion, no, unless they
So
ruled that
that's what
something wasn't spent
we agreed
properly,
to.
but
But I was, for the finance committee, once we get the report monthly of how much interest we made on this fund, I'll have Lori, include that in our agenda, so we'll keep track of that. But I agree with you. I do, that the interest, let money make money kind of thing. All right, that's it with the, I'm sorry, Commissioner Alford, you want to?
did it not put lights up? I don't remember,
Well, there are lights at Elrod now.
but maybe, I don't know either of it. It does tell you how you budget it. I don't know if it's detailed enough to tell you where actually, you know, like in that one, it says pickleball. Even my buckets say that, but it does say it, you know, it'll show it went to recreation for pickleball and BMX. Uh, we may have to ask him individually what it was spent for as far as the.
Mayor, what I'd like to do, Lori, if you'll extend an invitation to Andy to probably the September, because everybody's gonna be gone in August, have him come in here and explain it.
Keep in mind, he's only spent 16,000 of the 65. And so what was the 16 spent for? And then what is the 49 going to be spent for?
Right.
That's your
So
question.
we'll bring him to finance first Monday of September, or the finance meeting of September, and we'll ask him all those questions. Please.
The buckets, I'll be bringing you the updated buckets, which is the plan that they require us to have in place. And all of these things have outdated it, so I'll be bringing you that update on the 17th meeting, so that when you approve this budget on the 28th, you're following the plan. Does that make sense? So the 17th, yeah.
Well, if he can be at the August meeting, so be it, but I think September is probably a better one. We'll see. We'll ask Andy what day, if he's available. We're not by the way, I'll hit a tangent. Obviously, there's no need to have a finance committee on the first Monday of July, because the Friday before, we just passed the budget. And I don't think anybody's gonna amend their budgets over the weekend. So there won't be a July finance committee meeting. So our next meeting after today will be first Monday of August. All right, any other questions on art money? None? All right, next, we can go to any fund that you want to, but the one I'm gonna go to is debt services, 151. Because I think roads is pretty much, roads is roads. And they're doing a pretty good job over there. You gotta go through all the schools to get the debt. Okay. And what time is it? Do we need does anybody need a break? With 10-minute break? Looking, we're good? Okay. Oh, this is what's confusing. 177, because if you go by the fund number, 177, then you go back to 151.
That's because all the schools are together.
Okay. Now we did the summary on here. Commissioner offered, so that is actually he does the revenue page and then we go to summary. So on page 148. So in the 23-24 budget, you can see that the fund balance in, right, $16,507,490, and then the estimated totals. Let's go back, Mayor. I think I have an idea, but just for everybody's, you have the column there called original budget 23-24, and then you have estimated totals 23-24, and that's kind of acting like all the amendments and adjustments that have been made throughout the year. So this is the budget that was the number. The column 2 is kind of what was budgeted and passed, which we were getting ready to do, and then column 3 is all the adjustments, additions and subtractions and all that kind of stuff throughout the year. So between what was budgeted 16,507 and 15,249 and some change, that is a difference of a little 1.2 million. I guess my question is, we were chatting about this today.
The difference.
The interest was more than what we thought because of
No.
the variables.
No, your expenditures, look at the next to the bottom line, 9.8 was what you approved. You amended it during the year and it ended up being 11. That's when you voted for us to pay off that
That's right.
debt.
And that's kind of where I was going is,
That's roughly the answer.
can we do that again for ESG? Is where I'm going with all this.
How much is the total on ESG?
I think it's over $1 million, but I'll call over there and get that number.
Even so, throughout the year, you could amend it like you did last year to do that.
And if my memory serves me correct, you have to make that, that's a once a year payment that you make to the trustee. Isn't it around November?
It's, at the end of the year. This one right now is
The
industrial park, so it's December, I guess.
Industrial part, yeah. And I don't know if we'll ever really touch that one because it's being paid out of,
It's got its own funding source, so yeah.
yeah, but the ESG, back for those, the ESG was supposed to be paid by the savings of putting all this new technology and all these new stuff, we'll call it that, and there would be a savings. So the sooner we can eliminate that debt, and again, the residual is that the trustees can use that money to go buy a new CD.
Look on page 149, and in under my column, you go down about you got 109,363, and then you got 00.
I'm sorry.
That's where we've paid off that debt, and I'm not proposing to pay any more on it because we paid it off. Does that
Yeah,
make
that's-
sense? Follow me? So that means we paid 1.4 in principal and 115 in interest this year, and next year it's 0. You see the two zeros there?
Yeah, on 602 and 612.
Right. 601 and, let's see, 601 and 60.
603 is your interest, 0, and 601 is your principal.
Right. The second 0, the first one is where we paid off the workhouse. The second 0 is where we moved the library back to HCI.
Right.
Can I say something on this one though? This
G.
ESG one.
Please.
You do need to remember that about $300,000 of that $3 million we borrowed is in general fund in Parks and Rec. We pay about $29,000 a year.
That was for light.
That was for the ball field.
Right. So when we pay it off, we'll pay all of it.
Yeah, we'll pay all of it.
So that'll help him on his side as well.
And
Yeah,
what you
general
would
fund.
save this year when you do that is we're due a $363,000 principal payment plus a $42,000 interest payment. So it would
Right.
save you about $400,000.
So that's already budgeted. That's going to happen, and potentially paying it off could happen if we feel like we can later on in the year. So we'll revisit this in September, October to see where we're at on that. But I think that'd be a good thing. Now back to the summary page. So in the mayor's proposal for the 24-25, that fund balance of $15,249,967 obviously moves up and begins. It's your fund balance at the beginning of the year. Total revenue is $9,019,878. And total expenses
10 million.
Yeah, 10 million, I'm sorry, I was looking at the total of funds available, I'm like, where'd that 24 come from? Yeah, add all those up, then 10 million. So, is that also reflecting on the fact that we eliminated that interfund loan? I guess my
Yeah, it
question is,
increased the expenses this year, which lowered what the fund balance would have been.
So here's the question. The variable, and I know percentage-wise of the total debt, variable is not the biggest part of it. Fixed rates of our bonds is the bigger piece of it, right?
Right.
I think by memory, 40% is variable and 60% is fixed.
Right.
But we've already incurred the increase in the variables, right? I mean, I guess what is Cumberland Securities telling us with respect to our variable and what we should anticipate? Or are they? They should be. They manage our debt.
Well, I was looking what's reflected in here. I don't think they told us other than
I
the
think
figure.
what they do when they send us the amounts that we should budget for the year, they figure around 5%. Sometimes the interest, it works out perfectly.
5% for the variable, or 5% total interest for
I think
fixed?
that they do that. I'll have to look at their sheet that
Because we don't have any fixed that are above 5.
they. Variable, I just have to look to see what that they got in.
So
We
would
have-
it be possible to get like each? I know all the bonds are in one big pot, and the mayor did a good job explaining how when one ends and matures, that they've already calculated because they're smart that the next bond, like we took out a bond for Lake Forest in what 2014, 2015, something like that, and then 2017 we did Pie Center. They knew all of our debt structure already and calculated all in and made sure that we had revenue to pay everybody, and just in time it is what they're doing. But is it possible to get a list of all of our bonds and when they mature and in their terms? They should have that.
They probably, I'm sure they do. What they give us historically is the chart that shows, you've seen that colored chart?
Yeah, that color chart that
And
they
it
made
goes
fun
up
of
and
me.
down, which reflects what you're talking about. And that shows you when you have the dip and have borrowing power in the
And that's
future.
the key is when all that starts, where we have enough revenue with our tax structure now and any anticipated growth. There's a day when we can actually go borrow and we don't have to raise taxes or steal from another fund.
Right.
So, Laura, if you'll remind me, can we, in the next month or two, ask Cumberland Securities for that?
Do you
I think
want the
that'd be helpful.
chart or the individual bonds?
I'd like to have the individual bonds, but the chart would be good too. How about both? I mean, Commissioner Alford? Individual bond, yeah. That's all I have with, oh, sorry, please, Commissioner Alford. You good? Does that make sense though? Cindy?
And you paying 4,000. Do we have any record of how much we're paying off each extra, each bond?
The only one that we're paying extra on is the one with with the trustee on the industrial park. The interfund loans, we can do that. The bonds have fixed amounts. Now, we can pay more on the variable rate ones, but we're only paying what they tell us is due on all of those. We're paying extra on the one to get,
Interlocal.
right.
Is that part of that 8 million you talked about the other day and you paid off this year?
Yeah, it's coming out of here, isn't it? So, yeah. What you do to get that 8 million is go to this page 149 and every line that says principal on bonds, principal on bonds, principal on bonds, add all those principal bonds up. You go down to schools, principal on bonds, principal on bonds, everything that says principal, add them up, and you'll come to the figure I gave you the other night.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to pay this year, and estimated for this current year is also there in that same place. So, we're paying off based on our schedule with the bonds with Cumberland. Our schedule has us paying so much principal a year on various bonds. And so when you total them all up, that's how you get that number. The only one we're in-house paying extra on is the one we owe to the trustee on with HCI.
And so what I guess was throwing me, I looked at last year's payout was 9,400,000, I think, and then we say we paid off 8 million. You budgeted 9,400,000 last year, something like that. And we paid off 8 million. So that other million that we budgeted last year may be screwing up, but I wondered if that, what you budgeted, that million extra dollars, where it went this year's budget compared to next year. Well, what you said the other day on your 8 million.
I'm not following you. If you're talking about this current year on debt, all I did when I tell you how much we are paying off this year is add up all of those principal ones. And I'm getting them straight from the budget. The only numbers that, I don't really know how to answer your question there. If you look at the estimated total and add up all of those, that's what we've paid off. Now, those aren't audited numbers yet, so it could be a little different, but we're basically paying off all of those principal lines. We're paying that amount. We're not paying off anything, but we're paying those amounts, and that's what ends that. And what I tell you we paid off and what's budgeted to pay off is the same because I'm getting it from the budget. If you follow me, I'm not sure what I'm saying different than what you're asking, but like the 185, the 363, all of those numbers that say principal by them is all I'm totaling up. And if I'm saying something wrong, you guys jump in. I'm just totaling up those principal lines, and that's what comes to the whatever figure I said.
And those estimated totals that we're showing in there, that's what we've paid.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
principals have already hit for your debt service. We pay those. You just pay. Matter of fact, I just paid those off. Paid those at the end of May.
so I don't think I'm answering your question, but I don't know how.
I don't have that in front of me. Your presentation the other day, something about there was 7 million, but we paid off 8 million. And we owed 7
Well,
million, we
that's
paid off 8
because
million.
no, I think it was the other way around. I think maybe 7 was budgeted. We paid off 8.
Yeah.
That's because you amended it during the year to pay off that bond, the workhouse bond. Yeah.
Okay, that was why they're different. But the year before, I think we'd budgeted like 9 million. That's why I was wondering.
Well, I don't.
It's not a big.
The year before would be actual. That left column, I could do it real quick, but there's a lot of numbers to add up.
Yeah,
But it would be all of those principal lines in that left column, which is actual audit numbers too, by the way. So go total them up. But whatever we paid off is here, either in the actual or if you're talking about current year in the estimated column. And that's all I do when I report that number is total up from here. I'm telling you like that so you can total it up if you want to.
How easy to get?
Well, I mean, it's confusing, especially when you do an extra 1.2 million in the middle of the year, which was what you're thinking about doing next year, and that reflects in that estimated total column. It's actually showing.
So we're estimating paying off another 1.2 million extra.
Only if you do this amendment he's referring to.
Yeah.
We only pay what's in the budget unless you amend it up like you did last year.
Okay. So in other words, if we amend it up, we got to come up and find $1 million something.
Yeah, he's going to propose taking it from the fund balance again, which lowered the fund balance this year. If you'll look, the fund balance on page 148 was projected to be 15.2, and it's 14.2. That's because we paid extra on the debt. Yeah.
I understand where you're at.
All right, real quick.
Oh, no, but you did ask to get a
want it? Yeah.
copy of the.
Yeah, Lori and I'll work on getting that documentation.
I'd
for you.
also like to see all the contracts we've got out right now. How many contracts do we have out, and what was just a page of contracts, and how much money we're talking?
Can I ask you to hold that for 1 second? Because that, we'll get to that in a second.
Seconds up. Go
I
ahead.
asked you if I could. I didn't really mean to ask you.
Go ahead, Chairman.
Mayor, on page 147.
147?
Back to the summary page.
Okay.
I think this is just kind of an education kind of thing on me. Each fund receives interest off of their fund balance, or the money that, like roads, and I know Susan will, our schools, 189 really does. But and I may be totally wrong, but line 44110 down there, you have a proposal, and it's been consistent. But except for the actual in 22-23 was 96,000, but you're putting 2,000. If that's the interest off of the principal of idle funds, 2,000. I mean, surely the guy's going to make
You know
more
what
than
that
2,000.
is? I don't know offhand what that even is.
But
Because-
but I looked at all the 44110s accounts because each fund has that.
But they just have a small amount.
Oh,
189 and general fund gets, your all's rule that you passed several years ago is the interest income goes to 189 and general, I believe.
okay.
I don't know how these other funds get a token amount offhand.
Roads increased theirs somewhat to 20,000. Susan in 141 increased hers. So that answers my question then.
150.
Yeah, I know
I'm sorry, could you not hear me?
I think we just.
That answers my question. If we made a policy that all interest goes to general fund and 80, then that explains why.
You did that, yeah. And that's where it all
Okay.
goes.
I don't remember doing that, but if that's
Well,
what
yeah,
we
it's
did.
several years ago. But yeah, you said back then you want all interest to go to the capital projects fund. That's a direction to Mike, not me, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
And then in your budget request book, she was just showing me, you have a page from Mike showing how much went in each one.
Yeah. Well, the banks pay. He's got like Bank 101, 102, 103, and they pay their. Some of them pay their monthly interest. Well, some of them pay the interest monthly. Some of them are quarterly. I mean, they're all types of different frequencies. And I was looking at 189. I'm like, man,
That's
that's because they're receiving the benefit of other funds and the interest they make. I mean, it's all for him one big pot, but he breaks it up into the fund. So I was just looking at that 2,000, like $2,000 interest. All it takes is, $20,000 to do that. I mean, so that answers that question.
he doesn't put money into
I know.
151. So
I just thought that would be a bigger number if each fund was getting its own
Oh, yeah.
interest.
And it used to be that way. It was divided per fund, but probably 15 years ago or whenever the policy
It had to be before I got here. Yeah. All right, Commissioner Alford, you want to talk about contracts?
I just asked if I could see a copy.
So that is a good point. I know we had some contracts in the current year that ended, or we extended them because the contract language allowed us to extend them. Are there any contracts in the 24-25 budget that we're going to see that we need to take into consideration, I guess?
that are ending
Is that what you're asking?
Ending or new one?
on any subject, any department.
Well, I mean, the big one obviously is the medical, and then the food. Then we have a contract with
That's sheriff's. That's a contract.
It's a contract that we just
and the contract with the new
did for
billing
you.
system is, we just started that one this March, right? So that one shouldn't be up for a couple of years. That's fall, yeah. So that's a 3-year.
That's kind of what I'm looking for, contracts and when they end or when they start.
Well, if they're more than 1 year, they come to you all. You can search the minutes and get I think you attempted to do that once. There's millions of copier contracts out there and
We
stuff.
did.
And you found out it's very complicated, and I don't know if you ever got it or not. There's a lot of them, but they all come to you if they're more than a year. I can only sign 1-year contracts. Multi-year contracts have to go to the commission.
But if the contract allows you to extend, to take
And
the
a lot
option
of
to
them
go-
do have that.
Yeah.
Some of them do have that in there. like this healthcare one, it was a 3-year contract that you all approved a year ago, still had 2 years on it, and I still had to negotiate with them because of what they did to us. So the length of it don't necessarily hold anybody anymore.
We're done.
But there are a lot out there that I wouldn't even know about.
Okay.
I don't know if there's gonna be a place to get that one list, honestly.
Understand.
I understand the reason for wanting it. It's kinda unreal to get. And from memory, I think they did ask you to get that once before, and I bet you never got it.
No, we got it. We got it.
You got quite a
Lori-
few, but
Lori sent us, and we went through it, and I've never been the same since. So,
I know it. That's what I'm saying. But you're welcome to do the same thing again.
but it was good info. It gave us a good idea on the contracts and how they work. In fact, probably sometime in the near future, I think we need to change the policy and the policy legislative committee that when we do contracts, we really need to think about this 90-day, and then we can get out of the contract thing. So if it says 3 years, I mean, I don't know all the ramifications, so don't hold me to it. But, you know, a vendor basically informs Crystal, I want to exercise the option to get out, my 90-day option, we're out of here. And they're a critical piece of what we do. We really need to think about that. I mean, I don't know all the ramifications. It could be we're shooting ourselves in the foot if we do that. But I think we need at least need to talk to Crystal about protecting ourselves. But that's at a later date. That's nothing to do with budget. All right, Commissioner Alford, anything else?
That's all questions.
Commissioner Winters, I mean, if there's nothing
We're gonna
else,
discuss wish list anytime this afternoon, next week.
wish list.
Stuff we may want out of the ARP money.
You're working on it. So let's go through your wish, because
Got a lot of wish.
let's go.
Anybody else got any?
I got mine.
Well, then let's hear yours first.
My wish list is if we can pay off that debt. I mean, I'm gonna work hard with the mayor to see if it can be possibly done. Obviously, we have budget constraints and we have a fund balance policy, but you know, and we'll see. That's what I would like to do because of the ramifications of it. As far as ARP money goes,
I guess.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have money for that. I
need-
suggest
I think the trustee
you
may
get the
need a car next
buckets
year.
and study what's in there and what we're projecting to be
Trustee
left.
needs a car.
Go ahead and approve the budget, and you can add to and amend.
Come on,
Louis.
the trustee needs a new vehicle. The trustee cannot
Approve
have
the
a bicycle.
budget and amend it anytime you want to, That,
No, he
and-
can't. He has to.
with the,
Touche.
let-
All right.
Louis, with the caveat that you do it as slow as possible because in the name of earning more interest, okay?
That's
Because
always,
that's to your benefit, yeah, that's your benefit.
all right. So
I put no wishes in mine, I took it all from budget requests. There's no wishes in there, and I knew you would all would have them, now that you know what's left with interest only, and that's all totally up to you, but just do it as slow as possible so the interest continues. Right, you
but
can.
and also just to be thorough, you funded the study that Melissa Woody asked for out of 172, and we'll see how that
You
works.
need to look at that, because you all haven't approved doing that, but it's there if you want to. If you don't, take it out. Right, the study. I'm glad you pointed that out, because I forgot about it. You had a presentation requesting that. I don't know if you want to do it or not. So if you don't, take it out. But the proposal was to split the cost
So-
with the chamber, I believe, and.
Yeah, well, the chamber will do 10,000, the city will do 10,000, and they asked if we would do. But I thought maybe
That's the
my
study.
bad. I thought when we approved the budget and it's in there, it was kind of inherent that we're approving it.
That's
how
true.
some-
That's why I'm saying if you want to take it out, then now's the time to do it. If you don't want to do it.
I don't.
What page are we talking about? What fund did I put that in? 172?
I said I don't want to take it out. Yeah,
Well, if you want to do it, then it's taken care of, so you don't have to do anything.
that's what I was trying to say. Do you have a, Commissioner Mason? Need some litter bags or anything?
Mylan,
Ooh.
I can't hear what she says.
She said, no, the agile brain of Commissioner Slater at work.
Who is? They are? Okay, I don't know what you're saying. But back to business, you asked some questions a while ago about Parks and Rec. He communicated with him. Madam, you want to tell him what he said?
He
You were
spent
asking
a- he
what that
spent a
money
li-
was
so
spent
out of that,
for?
sorry, out of that 65,000 that was in the ARP bucket for BMX/pickleball, 15,000 of it has been spent on the pavilion over the start
The
gate.
roof over the starting gate.
The rest of it, the other 50,000 that still would be in that project line, hasn't been spent, and that's earmarked for pickleball lights. Which are
Okay,
in
that's
this
where the
year's
lights
budget.
are. It's to come. Okay, I didn't remember which.
Just a suggestion, since you deal with him a lot more than I do, he'd convert those two tennis courts, which is already lit, to pickleball courts. You wouldn't have to spend the 50,000 for lights for the pickleball. Just a suggestion.
I know that was a suggestion that he received, and I don't want to speak for him, but I will. His opinion is that that would leave us without any tennis courts, and we do have quite a few tennis players that use them, and he wasn't comfortable doing that. So, don't shoot the messenger.
But if he don't change, at least they've spent the BMX money and the money's there then for the lights for the pickleball. I had asked him to try to get it spent this budget year, and I don't think he's ever PO'd that last amount. The reason he didn't, it didn't look like he was going to get to spend it this year, is he was trying to finish up the lights at Pimenez and then come back, and that's when I said, well, I'll carry that amount forward into the new budget. So that amount left then is for pickleball, it sounds like.
All right, last thing on page 152. Account 44570. This is kind of bringing it to your attention. That is with a caveat. That 850,000. That's the revenue projection from the Republic, from the landfill. Just FYI, we did move, Mayor, 100,000 we are allowed, because it's quote unquote technically a donation, over to the fire fund to help them out with their fund balance. So just so you know.
The way that is divided in this proposed budget is the contribution on the landfill. 850 is going to 189, 100 is going to fire, and 300 is going to the solid waste budget to fund the recycling and stuff. The only change there is the 100 going to fire.
Right. And it's a way to prop up their budget.
Yeah,
a little bit legally. Yeah. Now,
and that's with a projection of 1.2 million
right.
in revenue.
But
that could be more.
Just so we're all clear, the 100,000. Let's say, I mean, it's first. So in other words, let's say your revenue projection is a little lower than what you budgeted. The 100,000 goes into the fire fund, and if any fund takes a hit, it'll be 189.
Yeah, it'll meet that though. I did the conservative. It hasn't ever gone down, so it'll be more than that.
All right, that's all I have. We are not done. Look, Mr.
No,
It's already in there.
No, it's in the new budget and reflected in the new budget's proposed fund balance. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Alford, your list of things you'd like to. Well, what about the fire halls, the ones that you're.
You know, when you were having your sidebar over there, Louis and I said, let's get the budget approved. Look at your buckets and know how much interest you have.
We know we got enough for what he wants.
I know, but move as slow as possible on it so it continues to grow and amend it throughout the year whenever you want to. Right, you can add it anytime. You've added a lot of things to it right now, but no big ticket items, and then you'll come in with others. But there's no hurry on it. I mean, I don't even know what the wish list is, but do it August,
Well,
September,
look,
October.
review your wish list so he'll have an idea.
And
I mean, we're not gonna approve it today. But
I don't have a problem with it. I mean,
okay,
yeah, that's the kind of thing that even if you approved it, I would push to slow it down a lot simply because of that reason. I mean, why do you think the state's taking so long to approve grants and get our grant money to us out of their ARP fund? Because they got so many billion, and imagine how much they're doing. They'll never tell you that, but I guarantee you that's what they're doing. It's what
Or
they've done for
they're-
2 years. They're just now starting to send us money on all those utility grants that you all approved over a year ago. We're
more than
starting
a
to
year.
get dribbles.
I mean,
And it's
Savannah-
done on purpose for what I'm saying, yeah. Science. I haven't heard anything on it. They're gonna have to keep pushing them. That's a FEMA grant that it's FEMA.
federal.
Yeah, it's FEMA. We got it when we did some of ours. They got it when they did the addition at Walker Valley. But those people do it when they want to, and you just gotta stay on it. Nobody will have a deadline. It's not like a CDBG where the deadline is this date or so. It don't have. So I can't tell you anything on it other than if they just need to stay on it, keep following up, and yeah, everything was submitted to them. But when it will get funded and when it will happen is really questionable on those grants. Yeah.
Of the science wing over by the high school. It's gonna be a year.
Well, let me tell you this.
before they get
I don't know.
final approval.
I'm glad that in that school agreement that they took on that. I know you had said you wish we would keep that. Whatever the match is, I would have to be showing in the budget. It may not happen till 25, but I'd have to show it in the budget now. And they've got, at some point, you've got to show them that you've budgeted the match. And I don't have to now, and that's a good thing. So let them worry about it. They got a much bigger fund balance than I do. So I was glad to give up that one because if I didn't fund it and they called next week and said, okay, it will be approved in July, make sure you have your match ready in August, and I didn't budget it. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, we would've.
So I am so happy to not have to worry about it as far as the match. Now they have to worry about it, but they can handle it better than I can, I promise you. They've got the estimate, if it goes on another year or two, that's going to change. I used to have it in hours too, if you recall, and I got to take it out this year, thank goodness, because they could call on that any time. It is a hard question. I sure ain't going to attempt to answer it. If it was still on us, I would have to budget it though, what I think it is.
All right, go, Commissioner Alford, go over that list real quick.
Thank you, Louis, but we'll go over it anytime you want to, really. Just don't be in a hurry, is all I'm asking.
Well, I mean, I don't understand. You can go ahead and approve it and get it in here. Most of the stuff is under the mayor's. He can slow walk it if he wants. I mean, I don't understand why we can't approve it today.
I would want you to get some pretty concrete estimates first beforehand.
He's got,
If you've got them,
well, work with the mayor offline and come up with when to get that stuff done.
he's agreeing to it, Marlon. Approve the budget and amend it then in
I don't
July or
want to.
August. I mean, that's,
Okay, there's a ton of things in here that we're approving right now that we're not gonna spend till later. I mean, why
that's
is
true,
this-
but they were requested. What he's talking about wasn't.
got me on a technical, but
Uh, I was about to tell you something else, Marlon, as it dawned on me. I have to interrupt you to tell you as
That's
I
right.
think of it.
all right.
Now I
So
don't know what it was.
thank you guys very much. I think we broke a record. We are done.
Adjourn before he thinks of something else, please.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. I forgot one thing. I will say this before we adjourn real quick. I thought the EMS committee meeting was very good and informative yesterday. And Adam and the Mayor, as much as we can, I know this budget is 99% set for until the hearings and the final approval. But if we can increase the tuition or the scholarship piece that you talked about yesterday, I don't see why we couldn't use art money for that, at least until the next 2 years. And then the commission would have to decide if they wanted to continue that program or not. But, because interest money can be spent for pretty much anything. So, I don't have the numbers, that's why I don't, but I think that would be well for us to look at here in the next couple of months as well.
We have 4,000 in the budget for two.
4,000 right now, and I
And-
think you'll go through that pretty quick.
Well,
It
And then-
represents 2 scholarships.
that's two scholarships.
Yeah,
That's
and you're
our
gonna have
part.
more people, I mean,
What we're hoping to get approved with the new contract is if they will approve 4 scholarships, and we'll have to budget possibly 8,000, not necessarily because it's according to whether we have EMTs, AEMTs, or medics. But we would be looking at going from 4 to 8,000 as our commitment, if they'll agree to go from 2 to 4 scholarships.
well, even if they don't, I mean, I
They
think,
will. Why wouldn't?
You said if, and I'm
I
like,
think they will. Bill's,
go ahead.
what do you want to say on that? So,
Yeah, I think they're considering that.
So Adam, the burden I'll put it on you is when you're ready to ask the finance committee and the full commission to fund more for scholarship, just let us know.
once he gets a contract approved, telling us how many they've approved, then we'll
Right.
do that.
You're okay with
Probably
that?
be in July.
Yeah. Comment on it.
Please, Commissioner Rogers.
I just want to confirm too that moving forward, I know that in the past we've had scholarship winners that would win a scholarship and then they possibly could leave very quickly. I think having some parameters set around that, I think, would be a great opportunity for us to be able to retain these people for a longer period of time. Because if we're affording scholarships, keeping them around, for 2 or 3 years, I think is a great thing for Bradley County.
Let me add to that. And Adam, is it reimbursement? In other words, they pay their tuition bill and then they get a B or A or whatever on their course, and then we pay them back, or do we just pay?
No, we pay directly to Cleveland State, our
So if they-
semester that
So
the
if they
county's
flunk it,
responsible for.
we.
It's done with the business department.
So if they don't pass the course, we're out of that. I mean,
We've never had that happen, but
That's the mechanics. That is micromanaging, but I was just wondering. But
That's never
Commissioner
been a
Rogers,
problem.
What we did that, just a little history with fire, the training that they win, and I think the county attorney would tell us that when it came time to enforcing that, it was problematic. So
Well-
I agree with you. Put the parameters that way they know, but as far as enforcing that, I think is it is, and
I think, I
But
don't
with
want to speak
government-
for Crystal, but I think the issue, it's not problematic.
well, I
it's
didn't. Probably
not
choice of
cost
words.
effective. You're going to go after somebody for $2,000 and it probably costs you more than that
My
to
bad.
recoup
I
that.
used the wrong word. I just wanted you to know that we have done that in the past, and I think we still do that, right? With fire training, or did we eliminate that, Mayor?
I think because
I
of
know
that
we
we
did it
did.
at one time.
But just so you know, we are going to look at something, or we are looking at something that when they take that scholarship, they sign. It'll be up to you. Remember 2 weeks ago when I got in trouble because I brought a thing to you and you turned it down? It'll be up to you if you proceed with legal. But we'll have them sign the contract and we'll set the stage for you to approve legal action if you want to pursue it at that point. Because it is ridiculous to send someone to school, pay their tuition, go tuition free, come out, get a job. Oh, I'm going to Hamilton County. Well, then why didn't you go get them to give you the scholarship? They pay more. Well, why didn't you go get them to give you this? No, they get the scholarship on us. They're going to. That's not happened a lot, but it has happened. So there is going to be something to sign to go with these scholarships. So.
Thank you, Mayor. I just think, and I know you say about enforcing the scholarship, but I think it's just kindness, honestly. I mean, I think that most people in this world, they sign a contract to say this, they're going to uphold that. Yeah, that you're going to have random times that somebody might not. But for the majority of people in this world, they're going to look at that and they're going to be good, upstanding people, good, upstanding employees, good, upstanding citizens. And when you sign a contract, you uphold that contract. And I think that's a good thing that needs to happen.
I agree.
Yeah, all I was saying was that we'd done that in the past and we ran into an unforeseen situation. That's just so you have all the info. If there's nothing else, right? Looking. Lori, Adam. I hadn't hit the gavel yet. We got one. Mr. Gilbert. I know you want to speak. If there's nothing else, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. We are adjourned.